now, and we are ready to begin with our sessions with our church clerks. I want to greet you all, my church clerks from different churches, and I want to thank you very much for arriving early. Some of you have been in here since 8:30. There was someone who logged in very early. Why Mots? You are the very first person to log in, followed by Fungai. I want to appreciate you, my leaders, for leading by example. Thank you very much. I think we should make use of our time and use it wisely. And if we are going to achieve that, I am then going to advise that we commence. If others are still coming, they will find us along the way, but we need to start with our training. I am going to ask my first comer, the first person to log in. I see you as Y mods here. I'm not sure who this is. But if you are able to hear me, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and please just open for us with the word of prayer. If you are able to hear me and you are in a comfortable place, may I request you to please just open for us with the word of prayer. All right, I don't think my leader is able to pray for us wherever. Pastor Ngwenya, please.
Hello, Pastor.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Please pray for us, ma'am.
Sorry about that. My name is Wendy Motswakai, but the Y is my daughter who installed this app for me. From Mutlakeng.
From Mutlakeng. Welcome, Mutlakeng. Thank you. You were the first to arrive. Thank you, leader. Please pray for us.
Okay, I'm praying. Our Father in heaven, Lord, we thank you so much. We thank you for protecting us as always. We woke up, we can talk, we can see. It's all because of you. May you please be with us during this visual meeting. Everything, may it be in ourselves forever. Because it's not about us, it's about you, my dear Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much, my church clerk. I just want to start by introducing my team. Karabo Mitileni, our IT manager, he was playing the music for us. Karabo, we welcome you and thank you very much. We also have Sis Pumula Mota, who has been working with Karabo on ACMS. She is our receptionist here at TOC. We also just want to acknowledge and welcome you. She's also working with ACMS, learning from Karabo. We are trying to, sort of empower our ACMS department. We want to have more hands so that we reach our goal of 100%. So she's one of our people who are assisting us in that department. But we are also privileged, Pastor Ngwenya, I see, and I think this is the Pastor Ngwenya I know from Rand District, Deep Slot. Mfundiswam, we welcome you very much. Thank you very much for also coming. I know that you are the secretary in your district as well. We are also humbled to have you. We welcome you. But we are also grateful, saints, to have amongst us our associate executive secretary from the South African Union Conference. We have Pastor Henry Ngwira. Fundiswami, we welcome you to the TOC. This is home to you. And we are going to invite Pastor Ngwira to give us a short devotion and prayer, after which we are then going to immediately commence with our training. So Mfundiswam, I am going to hand over to you, and I'm going to ask you to please just take us through that short devotion.
Greetings to my pastor, our conference executive secretary, Pastor Maseko, the secretary team that he works with, the pastors, And let me confine myself that all protocol observed, all the dignitaries that are here, our church clerks, our pastors, our conference personnel. Am I audible, friends?
Very audible, Mfundisi.
Thank you so much, leadership. I'm grateful to join the team on a beautiful initiative, training, empowering one another. My devotion this morning, I want us to look. I've been talking to many executive committees that I've attended, sharing, and I realized that Secretariat, which is us as church clerks or as secretaries, play a vital role in guarding our church meetings and decision makings. And so I've entitled this discourse, Guarding Our Church Meetings and Decision Making. In other words, as church clerks, we are custodian of governance and policies. So in so doing, or by saying that, it simply means that you and I, when we are meeting, when we have meeting, we must have an interest in making sure that we guard those meetings and decision making. I'll then give a reason why it is important to guard our meeting and decision making using a text, the book from Job chapter 1, 6 and 7, Job chapter 2, verse 1 and 2. I want us also to highlight the sacredness of the church meetings and decision making in God's work. If there was somebody that must be concerned and worried of church meetings and decision making, it is us secretaries, us church clerk, because we are looking at meetings as something that is sacred, and the decision that we make impact on God's work. Drawing the attention to the text that I've just shared, that will be Job chapter 1 and 6, Job 2 and 1. The Bible says, now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord. And guess what? Satan also came among them. Wow, this is interesting. I'm going to read it again. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them. Question: why is Satan present in this meeting? What does this reveal about church gathering and decision making? It is important to know that when God's people meet, come together, when you invite God's people to meet to transact God's business, we have an invited guest who doesn't need our invitation. He invites himself. He comes, whether you like it or not, by the name of Satan, the devil. So, friends, I want you to know, in our meetings, in our churches, in our church board, in our business meeting, in our executive committee, in our ADCOM, you name it, in our session, an invited guest comes, whether it's a delegate or not, and that is the devil. That's why it is important that we need to guard our meetings and the decision making, because we have an invited guest. Satan presents, he says here now, when you look at it, that the sons of God, which are heavenly beings or representative gathered before God, even in such a sacred assembly, Satan shows up. Now, sometimes I hear people say, this is God's place. We are in the holy place. We are in the church. Even when you look at sin itself, it began in heaven. It's unbelievable. It's a mystery. In a holy place, how could sin start there? What more your churches? What more your meetings? What more your conferences? So that's why I'm reminding us, let's guard our meetings and also our decision making, because the devil shows up. Satan's presence shows that even sacred gathering can be infiltrated with the disruption, destruction, and deceptive intentions of the devil. Every church meeting carries a spiritual significance. I want us to know that as church clerk. Every church meeting carries a spiritual significance. It is not just administrative, but impacts on God's mission. Ellen White repeatedly emphasized that the church meeting should reflect heaven's order and that self should be subdued. When we meet, when we come together, even now as we will be going through the training for a day or half a day, it is sacred. And it says, whatever we do, we must reflect heaven's order and the self should be subdued. Testimonies to the volume 5. God is dishonored when his meetings are not conducted with the spirit of reverence and prayerful dependence. Friends, I want to remind us as custodian of governance that when we meet in those meetings, reverence, the spirit of reverence and prayerful dependence on whatever we are going to do must prevail. Not trusting in yourself, but trusting in the merit that God is leading his church. What does that mean to you and I? How we speak to one another. Before you speak, before you comment, before you disagree. Yes, we are going to disagree. Even in our disagreement, we must reflect order. We must reflect the character of God, because once the decisions are made, we are representing God, because what is bound on earth is also bound where? In heaven. It's not about me, it's about us. It is about God. So church meetings often set the direction for the ministry, and outreach. Poor decision can cripple spiritual progress. And many times, because of our poor decision making, we have distorted and also derailed the mission. As church clerks, as custodian of governance, I want to ask every day, when we call our meetings, when we have church boards, when we have church business meeting, when we have councils, when we have got zone meetings, wherever we are meeting, I want you to remember it is sacred. And as sacred as it is, remember that our invited guest, the devil, also shows up. For what reason? Revelation 12 verse 10 says, he is the accuser. He comes in to accuse. No wonder why most of our meetings are not mission-oriented. We fight. We accuse each other. We show up who knows better. That's why self must die so that Christ can be lifted up. The devil business is to accuse. As God's people, let's preserve that. Church meetings are there to make sure that God's work is protected. In the Bible, remember the book of Numbers 13:14, the spies, whereby the others, the 12 spies that were sent, only 2 came with a good report. The other says, the land is good, but we cannot enter, we cannot conquer, because the inhabitants there are huge and we are like grasshopper. Only 2 people says we can do this. So sometimes poor reporting can affect mission. And again, Jerusalem Council, when you look at Acts, showed good decision making, guided by prayer and unity, strengthened the church mission. That's why the church was able to spread in Asia, because the Jerusalem Council was mission driven. In closing, I will say, let's guard against disruption. We need team unity, teamwork. Psalms 133 verse 1, behold how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. Unity is a shield against disruption and division. What should we do? Practical steps for you and I. Number 1, prayer-centered gathering. Begin and end with prayer. Seek God's wisdom. No wonder why we introduce one another. We begin with prayer because we acknowledge that without prayer, we can't do anything. So even in our deliberation, in our discussion, we must be prayerful. The spirit of humility and openness. Avoid personal agenda. Let the word guide. Have you ever noticed that people will always accuse each other that you've got an agenda? You've got an agenda. All of us have an agenda in the meetings. And I wish that we can commit our lives to God to lead, not our own agenda, but God's agenda. Patriarchs and prophets, in the multitude of the counsels, there's safety, yet no man is to rely upon his own judgment. Sometimes you've got kingmakers, those that must speak. When they have spoken, everybody trembles. But as Adventists, we are saying there is counsel. In the multitude of counselors, there is safety. Don't trust your own understanding, your own idea, but let's submit to each other. Then when we make good decision, we'll be like Proverbs 16:13, commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plan. A church unified in decision-making reflects God's character and advances his mission. So it was with the early church. Friends, let us guard our meetings because the decision we make impacts on God's work and the mission. And every time we meet as God's people, it is a sacred convocation, sacred calling, but also an invited guest comes. How do we avoid an invited guest to be involved? Through prayer, submission, and humbling ourselves before God and let him lead. May the good Lord bless us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen, Pastor Ngwira. Can you just pray for us as you close, my pastor?
Let us pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, we want to thank you this morning for calling men and women, young and old, just to meet, discuss your business and your work. Father, I pray in our busy schedule, each one of us, but we have set aside this time, this day, just to plan your work, empower and equip one another to do better. Bless each one of us and bless the program that we follow. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much, Mfundis. Thank you for such a powerful motion. Saints, we are now going to commence. And as we begin with our training, I'm just going to ask that please keep your muted at all times. I also want to acknowledge our admin secretary department, Sister Chibase. Welcome you. Just to give you an overview of our program, don't mind the picture there. The young people who were doing it for me decided to put that. It's not my idea. However, the overview of the program from 9 to 10, introduction, qualities of a church clerk. So we're basically, I'm going to ask Pastor Ngwira, he's going to take us through the introduction of church clerk, is going to be taking us through the 5 M's. And then at 10, he's going to stop at 10 to 11. I'm going to have my ACMS team. They'll be taking us through ACMS and the challenges that we encounter on ACMS. So we're going to basically be going through this. And then from 11 to 12, this is where now we are going to be discussing the work of a church clerk, the practical things that a church clerk needs to do, things that you need to know, and your responsibilities and duties as an elected church clerk. And then at 12 o'clock, our last presentation will be nurture, retention, and reclamation. I will then take you through this presentation, and we are hoping to take it up to 12:30. And then from 12:30 to 1, we are then going to allow engagements. No, I'm not necessarily saying you are not permitted to ask questions during these other presentations. You are free to raise your hand at the end of the presentation and ask questions that will be responded to, or even during the presentation. But from 12:30 to 1, this is where we give you an opportunity to ask even things that you might feel that we did not cover in our presentation, and you have challenges with those things. Then this will be the time where we will then be assisting each other and responding to those various questions that you might have as a church clerk at local church. We want to make sure that when you leave here, all your questions are answered. If you have any struggles in any way, we want to be in a position to assist you, and hence we left you that 30 minutes at the end dedicated specially to ensuring that, because sometimes when we prepare presentations, we prepare things that we think you need, and only to find that maybe we leave out one or two things that might be impacting you personally, or that might be a challenge at your local church. So that's the time we want to allow you to then bring those at the end of our presentation. So at this point in time, I'm going to hand over to Pastor Ngwira, and I'm going to allow him to take us through the first presentation. And Pastor Ngwira will be speaking to us up to 10 o'clock. And at 10 o'clock, then we will introduce our ACMS team, and then who are also going to be taking us through the ACMS presentation. Over to you, my pastor.
Are you able to see my presentation?
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much. It's supposed to be 10 o'clock, so we said, okay, fine. We're going to cruise. Blessings. All right. Thank you so much, Pastor Masek, and the team, and also to join. I'm going to just look at an overview so that the church clerks and the mission. Wow, what happened now? It's stuck. Really? All right. What's going on here? All right. Now, let's define the word mission before we go to our mission. An important assignment given to a person or a group typically involves travel abroad, a fact-finding mission to somewhere on something. Or it can be a vocational calling of a religious organization, especially a Christian one, to go out into the world and spread its faith, the Christian mission. And number 4, any work that someone believes they have to do. And after doing it, you will hear a statement that says, mission accomplished. Isn't that wonderful? We are on the mission. You as a secretary, and I think we understand our mission. I'm not going to spend much time here, which is very important that we need to remind one another on our mission, our method, and our vision. But I'll come to here that the vision of the Secretariat or the church is to be a model of missionary, effective, and proficient secretariat. So the word used secretariat there is just a church clerk, a secretary, to be a model of a missionary. So in other words, even though you are a secretary, church clerk, I want you to understand that you are on the mission. You have to be effective and also need to be proficient in what you and I are doing. Now, the mission of the Secretariat is to provide administrative leadership and strategic direction to the world church in making disciples to reach the unreached area, unreached people group, and underreached people group. I like here when we talk about administrative leadership. You as a church clerk, you provide administrative leadership and strategic direction. You are leading from the second chair. In other words, you are not the leader, but whatever you are doing, we are going to see. And when the church is dead, it's because the church clerk is dead, is not functioning because of administrative leadership and strategical direction. What does that mean also? Core values, you as a church clerk, as secretariat. Number 1, professionalism. We got to treat God's work as a profession. Professionalism, the manner how you manage, you handle. Efficiency and effectiveness is very critical. Integrity and collaboration. As a church clerk, you collaborate with other departments. Integrity, efficiency, effectiveness, and professionalism. These are the core values. Purpose, build, lead, and empower in the spiritual mission and professionalism in the secretariat office at all levels of the church. Our mission remains unchanged wherever we find ourselves in the world. So the Seventh-day Adventist Church has been organized for the purpose of a what? Of a mission. However, the way in which we fulfill that mission will of necessity take a variety of forms due to different culture and society norms. So look at that, build, lead, empower in the spirituality to make sure that the mission is not aborted. And as we do that, we do it in a professional way and very efficient. Again, quickly, if we look at Secretariat, now, the Secretariat department in the church, in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, we've got 3 offices. One is the Office of the President, Office of the Secretariat, and Office of Treasury. Now, in the Secretariat, in other words, you as a church clerk, you need to understand what is expected of the Secretariat? What is Pastor Maseko in the Executive Secretary of the TOC expecting? Number one is mission. Number two is missionaries. Number three is membership. Number four is memory. Number five is management. Now it's at a higher level of things. But then your question is, how do I fit into this thing? Because when Pastor Maseko will be giving a report, a session report, he will be actually covering the 5 M's. And you as church clerks, you need to understand how these 5 M's work and how do I fit into these 5 M. Number one, 5M mission. On the mission, remember that everything else depends on the mission. So the question here that on the mission, what is expected of you? To identify and provide maps for strategical purposes regarding unreached or least reached religions, urban areas, and ethno-linguistic people group. Then generate real-time and accurate Seventh-day Adventist Church membership profiling, presence mapping, and mission progress update to inform mission strategies and measure mission progress. Revive the holistic, sacrificial, and active membership involvement in the local and worldwide mission of the church towards unreached and least reached people group. And then establish a strong presence in unreached and least reached people group, coordinate, collaboration, and agility of department drives towards the mission, possible establishment of centers of influence. So in other words, because we are mission driven, our role as secretariat, as our church clerk, is to make sure to identify. In other words, in your area where the church is, do we have unentered areas? So in short, we can come here. What do we expect from the church clerks on the mission? We want to ensure that we have a church board voted list of unreached people groups, least reached people groups, unentered area, and the number of worship groups in your area. So you as a, not to do, but to identify as a church clerk, because that list of an entered area and a rich people group, Pastor Maseko will not just wake up in the morning and start thinking, who are underreached people group? Where are they? An entered area. So you, because you know where you are able to escalate that information to his office, and then he becomes. And then number two, your church is on geolocation and the number of cultural groups composing your church. Your church is on geolocation. In other words, when people are looking for your church, can they find it on the SCMS or on the Google map? Can they find it? It's our responsibility to make sure that our church, number of cultural groups composing your church, you as a church clerk, you got to know how your church is composed of. Is it the Venda? Is it the Swatis? Is it the Sutus? Is it the Zulus? You know, that information, it helps for mission. In consultation with the departmental leaders, everyone is attending church. That is the mission, to make sure that those in the books and those in the pews are correlating. It's talking to each other. So that is part on the mission. Then number two, missionaries. Identify and provide information regarding those interested in doing missionary work, promotion of mission opportunities. In other words, you got to know as a church clerk that we've got opportunities for people, for the members to do mission. Revive the spirit of volunteering among members to do what? Mission. Recruiting members for specific mission work, coordinating, collaboration, and agility of the department drives to make sure that that's happening. So what can you do as a church clerk on the mission is to help or facilitate request of our members' involvement in the missionary work as global mission pioneers. When we talk about global mission pioneer, you as a church clerk must know, what does global mission pioneer entails? When you talk about Bible workers, and I think our church manual also talks about Bible instructor, but I did not put it here. Adventist mission volunteers, what is that? And evangelist has resulted in what? In soul winning. in consultation with the departmental leaders like Women's Ministry, Adventist Youth Ministries, AMO, and Family Ministries. We want to see these people, these departments' involvement in a representation of sending people for what? For mission. So mission cannot just be always be abroad. It can be in the community to make sure things are happening. Every believer to be a missionary and being reminded that their home, a workplace, and the community is a mission field. So that's what we are expecting on missionaries, where people are encouraged, people are given information so that they can volunteer. And then on membership, that's number 3, understanding Adventist church management system. The system provides a departure from number-based statistics to a member-based statistics. So in other words, it's not just a number in Jordan, but a name. We want to know who is this. If we say we have baptized 10, where are the 10 names of this? Membership review, understanding of the 5 auxiliary membership. That is the frequent regular members, non-frequent members, members in transfer, members with unknown whereabouts, and members to discipline and recover. I think that is much covered on Adventist Church Management System, which I think we've got a presentation and the experts to do that. So in other words, you as a church clerk, you must know the numbers of your members, at the tip of your palm, to say, if we ask, how many are you in your church? You as a church clerk, you must be able to say, in the books, we are 20. In the pews, we are 10. Then right there, it helps. That's why you find this one, which you call Discipleship Making and Reclamation Committee. That committee deals with nothing else but 2 things. Number 1, how do we keep those who are here? Discipling those who are here to be happy. Kuse kaya la, we are at home, we are here. And then those that were here and they're no longer with us, and we can even see them in our imagination that they used to sit there, he used to sit there, she used to sit there. Where is that person? So the recommendation is what you call a rescue plan, to say, bring them back, let's win them back, let's rescue them, because as Pelelanga, everybody is needed to make sure in our journey to heaven. Membership audit. So in other words, we need to audit our membership every year, annually, so that we've got correct statistics in our membership. Because sometimes we may say we are 20, but actually people are 10. In the books, people are 500, but in the pews, people are 200. Where are the others? So membership, you as a leader, as a church clerk, you come up with a report, you come up with the records that comes to the church board or to Discipleship Making and Reclamation Committee to look at ways how to win those back. So what do the church clerk do then? Knowing the church members' record, those present and missing, praying for the members in the record books, all Adventist church management system. I don't know whether you understand that you're doing a spiritual work. I want to ask most of us that are here, how many church clerks holding those church records? You have spent your time carrying that church records in your hand, praying for those members. It may not be name by name, but bringing that book to say, Lord, here are the people. Lord, here are those that are here. Some are not here because we just think that it's just people. It's a spiritual. Reporting to Discipleship Making and Reclamation Committee progress report for the committee to recommend a plan of action. If you don't do that, that Discipleship Making committee or reclamation will actually have no responsibility, no job to do to ensure that the church has an active discipleship plan. If you look in your church manual, the 22nd edition, you'll find out that the main business, the first it used to be evangelism. But when you look at it now, the responsibility of the church board is to have an active, not just a discipleship plan, an active discipleship plan. And if you want to start, what does that mean to be a disciple? You can look at chapter 6 of our church manual. There's also a discipleship plan, handbook, implementation. We need to find out how can we start. Again, all candidates' information to be collected before baptism for Adventist Church Management System. Moving forward, we are saying, on membership. Everyone is supposed now to be on Advent Church membership system. Whether they like it or not, it's a requirement. We are moving. I do not know all this conspiracy theory of 666 and so forth. Others say, hey, you want to take our details, friends, your details by your ID, your smart cards, your cell phones. It's already there. This is a way to manage. And this system is so beautiful. It makes life easier. Once you master it, you understand it. So let's not hesitate. You, as a church clerk, you must not be surprised that people are baptized and you are not ready. In other words, when people are going to baptize, you need to make sure and ask a question: where are the baptismal certificate? As you're talking about organizing baptismal certificate, print that form that need information to feed the Adventist Church membership system. So give the department numbers of members baptized in their departments. Women's ministry, the system is able to say how many are women, how many are children, how many are youth, how many are men. But if we use the default number, then it then distorts the information. But at least you are in the system. But we want accurate records, because it gives it how many. If we say we've got many young people in our church, because we've got their age, their death, their birth, the date of birth, we have it in the system. So we are encouraging us to make sure that we have an accurate record that we can be proud of on the church, on the third M, which is membership. Then we've got memory. That's the fourth one. Setting up workflow for documents management, assigning documents managers in each department, the archive vote up to general conference standard, preservation of the church documents. In other words, memory, we are simply saying for the church clerk, knowing and the preservation of all church documents. If I can ask you, in your church, some of the church clerks don't even have the church records. They have not even seen a church record. They have not seen previous church minutes 5 years from now, church business meeting. So memory is actually a way of preserving all church documents, the minutes, the church board, subcommittee minutes, church business meeting, records, inventory, and even follow-up correspondences. Safekeeping of the records. Where are those records? Confidentiality, because those records need to be kept in a place where no one has an access. Reclaiming of our old members. Where are they? It's part of memory. The church used to have so many people. What has happened? Where they've gone? So I'm saying, but when you look at the memory, it's the way you install or you keep your records, your minutes. And some of us, we write on a page today, and then after that, it is lost. And then when your term is finished, you give nothing, you have nothing. So I'm saying, under memory, it is the way to preserve and knowing where are the documents, where are they kept, are they safe, do you have all the documents, and making sure that we have votes. If we don't, and again, digitalization now, scan the minutes, install them on the folder, put a pin so that no one has got an access to it. And then the last one is management, understanding of the mission statement by reading it in the meeting. Let people understand we are on the mission, adopting and adapting accordingly how things are done as the world church. You, as a church, you must make your church manual. Church manual is a management book, a church manual. It is not just to discipline people. It is how we do things as Adventists. Updating church records accordingly. Departmental reports, minutes up to date. Church meetings are held regularly and subcommittee. Understanding the conference constitution, church manual, and every relevant document pertaining to your conference and also to your local church. So on management, what we are saying to the church clerk, you must have a planned church board and church business meeting. You don't just wake up and to say, we have a church board as an elder. And you remember, as the church clerk at the local church, not written, but borrowing from a principle from the conference, union, general division, and the general conference. We've got 3 officers in the conference at the division. at the General Conference. We've got the President, we've got the Executive Secretary, then we've got the CFO, that is the Treasurer, the three officers. When you model that, you discover that at the local church, we have the pastor, we have the church clerk, and we've got the treasurer as the local church officers. Now, someone will ask, but what happens to the elder? The elder falls under the office of the pastor, because in the absence of the pastor, the elder is the pastor, and the elder is delegated to run the church board and the business meeting only when there's an item that has to do with the disciplinary thing, and that one you cannot delegate to an elder. So in other words, as a church clerk, you need to understand a planned church board. Sometimes the elder will just wake up and says, we've got a church board. The question is, have you been authorized by the pastor to chair? And what is the agenda? So in other words, in management, you as a church clerk, sending of meeting notice and agenda formulation. Some of the church clerk doesn't even know how we formulate the agenda. Does the agenda come with the pastor? Does the agenda come with the secretary? How do we formulate the agenda? Sending of the complete agenda after officer's consultation and the previous minutes to the board members. In other words, don't get into a meeting not knowing what is the agenda. I must also say on the agenda, friends, there's nothing called any other business when you are dealing with management, because you circulate notice for the meeting, and in the meeting you request the board members to submit the agenda. You as a church clerk, you consolidate the agenda. Once the agenda has been consolidated, you sit with the pastor, the elder, the church clerk, and the treasurer, going through the agenda. Once you have consolidated those agenda, then you send it to the board members, the agenda item. If it is the business meeting, you send the notice to all the members that we are going to have a business meeting. Apart from what the church manual prescribes, the reports, the treasurer reports, personal ministries report, secretariat report, and other subcommittee reports as appointed by the church board to be reported. So you also open it up to the members if they've got agenda items to forward it before the business meeting. So there it is management, you making sure that everybody. Then again, preparation of the meeting. You as a church clerk, there is a work to be done before the meeting. In other words, I've just mentioned, you send notices, agenda formulation, previous minutes, and so forth before the meeting, and even telling people where the meeting will be, from what time to what time. In that meeting, in that also before the meeting, tell the people that in this meeting, prepare what we call whether people are going to have meals they're going to eat, or there's no food or nothing. All those things you send before the people. Then within the meeting, you are also running, you are a co-chair. In other words, your responsibility is to make sure that the motion, what is the motion on the floor? That is your responsibility. Reminding the chair, there are people who says, and then we go, our meetings takes the whole day because they end up being a subcommittee discussing the matter. We bring the recommendation. In other words, the committees, each department has a committee. Those committees sits and bring the recommendation to the church board. You as a departmental leader, then you will bring those recommendations to the church board. The church board can either vote it up or vote it down, or it can refer it back. But sometimes the board ending up becoming a subcommittee. And then after the meeting, you have a responsibility to make sure that the minutes are done. After the minutes are done, you send the draft to the chair. After the chair has seen the draft, and then you have agreed upon it, then you send it to the members before the other meeting so that they can correct sparings and actions were taken nicely and so forth. Then they can give their input. Then you finalize it. And then a follow-up correspondence whereby you, when action has been taken, who should make a follow-up on that? Who's supposed to do that? It is you sending the action to the relevant people. No wonder why when people sit in the meeting, you discuss, there's only one person that communicated the decision of the church board. It is the church clerk or the pastor on the matter, depending on the matter and what the board has voted for. That must be very clear so that action that are taken, there's a follow-up. Then people just say, we took the action and then there's nothing that is happening. So those are actually the five M's that we are talking about: mission, missionaries, membership, memory, and management. So when you plug into these five M's, you understand the work of Pastor Maseko at the conference, and Pastor Maseko understand the work of Pastor Lupondwana as the executive secretary of the union, and also Pastor Reneka, the executive secretary at the division. And then as a church clerk, I want you to know the church clerk is the engine of the church, and the success of the church depends on his or her understanding of this. And then it says, much of the efficient functioning of the church, this one I like in the church manual, depends on the work of the clerk. Much of the efficient functioning of the church depends on the work of the clerk because of the important and specialized function of this office. Specialized professionalism that we're talking about. It is wise to choose one who can be re-elected to provide continuity in the record keeping and reporting. Large churches may elect assistant clerk as needed when the church as a secretary cannot attend a business meeting. But I like that one says here, efficient functioning. You are the engine. We don't see the engine, but we see the car moving. We see the machine operating. In other words, you work from behind, but we see the church happening. You are not the leader, but you are the engine. You make the pastor, you make the elder, you make the departments to look good. And then also it says custodian of church governance. I mentioned it on the process, procedure, protocol, policies, and the church manual. So, and the Bible. Manage and coordinate administrative leadership affairs at the church level. What does that mean? You coordinate to make sure that the reports of other departmental leaders have been taken up, have been sent to the what? To the conference. In other words, before they are sent to the conference, they are voted by the church board. It is not you to make a follow-up. They are not reporting to you, but you are life driver of the organization, but not the leader. So that's in a nutshell the secretary responsibility, which I think I'm not going to touch that. We leave the duties and so forth. I think that one will be covered by the pastor. But I was just looking at the 5 M's and how you fit into this equation as leaders. Any question on that one? But you as a church clerk, you are the engine, custodian of the governance, and we're expecting to make sure that things are happening, especially on the reporting aspect. You need to understand the reports of other churches, other departments. Which date are they supposed to go to the conference? The same thing also, Pastor Maseko, need to understand the departmental director's report to the union. The same thing with Pastor Lupondwan, to understand the union director's report to the division. In so doing, you are collaborating, cooperating, and that efficiency and effectiveness we are talking about providing administrative leadership. When you provide administrative leadership, it does not mean that you are a leader, but you are making sure that things are happening and things are under control. I think in a nutshell, that's what I wanted to share, to say this is an exciting job to be an executive secretary, not to be a church clerk, the engine. Make things happen. Don't just say, I am just a church clerk. Don't be surprised about things. Check with your pastor, check with your executive secretary. What are the things that are needed? Check with your your church board members to see their reports. You as a church clerk, as custodian of governance, as you provide administrative leadership, you even need to understand the reports of other departments. How do they look like? Remind them, because in so doing, we'll see the church working, the church on fire, the church on the mission, and the church on the move. May the good Lord bless you. Amen.
Thank you very much, Pastor Ngwira. Thank you for the powerful presentation and the powerful devotion earlier on. Colleagues, if there are any questions to Pastor Ngwira, I am going to request you to raise your hand, then we'll recognize the hand. Then you can ask your questions and Pastor Ngwira will respond while he still has the floor. But if there are no questions, we will then move to the next presentation. I am currently do not see any question. If by any chance you are struggling to raise your hand, just unmute and identify yourself, then we will recognize you. I still don't see a hand, Pastor Ngwira. It means, my pastor, you are so eloquent that we heard you so well. There's no need to ask any questions. And thank you for being a faithful steward. You finished 10 minutes earlier than anticipated. Thank you very much for saving our time, Pastor Ngwira. May the good Lord truly bless you for that. At this point in time, we are then going to, thank you, my pastor. We are now going to hand over to our ACMS team to take us through the ACMS presentation and assist us with any challenges that we may be encountering in church clerks regarding that particular aspect of our work. Karabo and team, are you ready to present? Karabo? Oh, there's Karabo unmuting. Thank you. You can take over from here.
All right. I need to, may I just go ahead and share my screen, but greetings to everyone. I will just be presenting on a few things. This would then be, we've got a few services which we require all church clerks to be making use of. The first one is ACMS. The second one is our church emails, which everyone should be having. Let me just do this. And these are the two that are very important. And then finally, we have access to a WhatsApp group, which we have seen is what we are using for communication. So we use emails, we use WhatsApp, we use, and then we make use of ACMS. Now, let me start with the easy one. With regards to WhatsApp, we've created groups and we've shared links with everyone to say, when you get in, when you click on this link, you'll be able to join the particular group which you're supposed to be in. And so you join the group and you'll have access to our communication. On top of it, we request you to share this link with your, if you were the church clerk from last year, share it with the current church clerk so that they are the ones who are able to see and understand what's happening in the conference this year. Now, the first thing which I want to show you is just logging into your church email. So every church has an email address. So if you go to gmail.com, you should be able to log in if you've got the details. So I'm going to log in with one of our email addresses. But in this case, you would then type the church name. So let me just .org. Your email address looks like this. So this would be the church name at toc.adventist.org. This is the place where you do it. And when you click next, you should then be able to, if you have the password, if you type it correctly, you will log into your emails. Let's click not now. This is the same process even on your phone. So you will find that your email looks like this. The only difference with your personal email and the red Adventist symbol, the Seventh-day Adventist symbol. This is how you know that you are in the TOC email address. So this is important for you to have. You need to have this particular email address in order for you to communicate with other churches, to receive communication from the conference. And it's an official way of communication in our church. But this also doesn't mean that you should not be in the WhatsApp group. We have noticed that WhatsApp works quicker. Most of us are sitting on our phones, and if we need to send you something and we would like you to read it immediately, we've seen that WhatsApp is the quickest way. So please make sure you have access to the church email. Make sure that you are part of the WhatsApp group for your particular district. Now, I'm going to now show you how to log into ACMS. So we've got ACMS, which is a system which Pastor Nguira has mentioned and Pastor Maseko has mentioned. We've been using it for some years, and now we want you as the church clerk to continue using it. If you were using it last year, thank you for using it. We have seen that our numbers have been updated. But if you were not using it and you're new to it, this is where I'm going to show you how to work on ACMS. But to summarize what it is, it's a way in which we keep record of our membership. We've seen some churches are also using the treasury module, but that's not what I'll be talking about today. But what ACMS is a way in which you put your membership online, same way you would now put your emails online, and you don't use letters. You don't write letters by hand. You don't use the post anymore, but you use ACMS. The benefit of it is the fact that should you lose your computer, you don't lose the membership. Should your church record book get lost, you do not lose your membership, but your membership will be stored online somewhere. So I'm going to log into my ACMS. I know my computer is already logged in, but if you were to log in, you would have to go to, just open a new window. You go to acmsnet.org. This is the website that you would go to, and you press enter. When you get here, you would then have to type your username and your password. So if you do not have a username and a password, please contact us. We will then send you this information. I'm going to put the phone numbers of the ladies who you should contact with regards to ACMS in the WhatsApp groups so that you can be able to log in. But this is the screen you would find, and in this case, you would type your email address. So mine is @gmail.com. As you can see, I'm using my personal email address and not my work email. This is because ACMS links to everything. When you start using the treasury module, we will start sending you your receipts via email. And you don't want them going to your work email, but going to your personal email address. So when you sign up for ACMS, use your personal email address. If you don't have one, then you can use your work email. But it's advised that you use your personal email address. And then you would then type your password. And once you've typed it, you would then click sign in. Once you have signed in, it will bring you to a screen that looks like this. So let me just move to the church that we are going to be working in. Test church. All right. So this is the screen that you would see. This would be the church which you are in, and your dashboard looks like this. It shows you how many members are in your church, shows you the entries, meaning how many members have joined the church this year. All right. And if you're a church treasurer, you will then see this section here at the bottom. But this is not what we are looking for. We just want you to be here. Now, I'm going to work backwards to show you the benefits of ACMS, and then I'll show you how we get to those benefits. The first thing that we want is, we say Pastor Maseko comes to your church as a church clerk and he says to you, I want your membership. Church clerk, give me your membership. All you do after logging into ACMS, you just simply come to reports, select member, and you just scroll down and you click list. What that should do is that it should just generate a list of your church members in this church. And you've got your membership here. So when you're doing your roll call, you don't need to work too hard. You simply log into ACMS, print this page here, and you've got access to your membership. But this is where we are going to start. So we've got these people here, as you can see. These are our members, and it says 6. Now, the question is now, how do you get to these 6 members? These are the people who have been added already. Now, as a church clerk, what we are saying, this year is a new year. You are the new church clerk. You are now going to be dealing with new members who are coming into the church. So you baptize someone. There are baptisms yesterday, and you are now saying, I've got 2 people who were baptized. How do you add them onto ACMS? So you would then go, so from your home page, you go to member, select search or new, and then it brings you to this page here. So if you click on this new button, you've got 2 options here. There's a member and there's an interest. I will show you how to work on the interest. For now, we are working with members. So you click member. This is the new member that you want to add. And it should take you to a page which looks like this. And in this case, you would that type to say member, let's say the member's name is member testing. Testing. This is a hypothetical member. First name is member, last name is testing. So you click search. What ACMS does is it at first searches through the whole database to see if this person exists. So if doesn't find the person, you would then come to this particular screen that asks you to search or to create a new record. So in this case, we would create a new record. Then you'd click. Now, the first thing is the ceremony. We need to know how this member got into our membership or this particular person joined this church. So you'd click on baptism, and then we'd say the baptism was yesterday. Ceremony date is still the same. This is the date of everything. And then we type, who was this person baptized by? So we say Pastor Maseko. This is important. And then we scroll down. Now, we need to know this person's gender. So we'd say this person is a male and their date of birth, let's just say they were born sometime in 2000. So you click on here, you select the year 2000, and they were born in April, let's say 24. That's it. So from here, we come to this part, and we need a phone number for this person. The reason we need a phone number is also for treasury purposes. The treasury module has access to to sending receipts via SMS, or they can send to your email. So you put the person's email, sorry, the phone number. It's just a fake phone number, and you put the email address. So let's say member at testing. That's your co.za. That's just it. So from here, we've got this information. If you have the rest of the information, then you can do so. For information, you could say this person is in university, for example. That's it. You can put the membership to say the marital status to say they are single. From here, you click save. And that is how you add a member. So once we get a success message, then we have successfully added the member. Here's our success message on top. So if we go back to our membership, to our reports, member, we should now be having 7 members in our membership. So we're just going to click on this list to see what has happened. And here's our new report. So we open a new window, and it shows our numbers. We've got 7 members, and we've just added this person here, this one called member testing. And that's all you do when you add a member. When you have a baptism, you add a member. That's all that you do. Now, I want to add an interest. Say, for instance, this member testing has a child, and we want this child to be part of our record to say that this is one of the children that we have. So you then click on new, and you select interests. This is a new feature that we have. This is very helpful as well to the church treasurers, because now, even if you are not a member, they are able to receipt for your child, and your child would receive their receipts. Or if you have someone who is in the baptismal class who is returning tithes and offerings, you would want to see and have a record of this person's tithes and offerings, or to have these numbers. So you would say, we're coming back here. Let's start again from the home page. We'd go to member, search new. And then in this case, you want to click new and select an interest. This is a person who you're interested in having in your membership, or you being the person you're interested in joining your church. So in this case, we'd type the first name, and then be member, let's say interest, child. Let's say this is the child, for example. So you click search, and we don't have this person. So if you click new record, now this person is not baptized, but we want to add them. So we then select the gender. Let's say this is a female, the date of birth. This one was born in 2019. They are 6-year-old. It's not a big person. So you select the date, and then from here you scroll down, and let's say this child, hypothetically, they have a phone number, because children have phone numbers these days. So you can put the phone number. Let's say this is it. And if, let's say, the parent has purchased a phone for this child and they have an email address, but I think let's change something. Okay, let's just keep it this way. It's a phone number. So from here, what you then come to, you click on the status, and it asks you this interest. Where do they fall in? Is this a child of Adventist parents? Is it a first-time visitor? Are they coming from Hope Channel, or is it a prior Adventist, or is it person ready for baptism? You have all of these options here, which you need to select. So in this case, we're saying this is a child. So you click Child of Adventists, and you click Save. That way, you now know how many people you are interested, or rather you're working towards getting into your membership. But if you go check on the report, let's go to member and member. That one who is an interest, even though we've added them, they will not form part of our membership because they are not baptized. So if we click on new window, let's make it bigger. We are still having only access to 7 members. That child is not here. That is the thing that you're doing. But if you were to change and you say, if the pastor says, how many people are children in your church, you can now start coming to this part here in the same page. You click here and you switch off. Let's just say you want only your interest. These are the people who who are the children, or we want them to join the church. So if you look at this report, in this church, we've got the first baby and we've got this interest here. It's an interest. This is a child of a member. And that's all we're doing. We're now separating the two people. It's to members and interests. That is how you add a member. There's another way in which you can add a member. The third one is by transfer. So when you're on your home page, you would then come to member, transfer. Now, in your church, you're looking for this gentleman named Karabo, for example. He wants to join this church. So you come to this place, member transfer, and you click on start transfer. So you look for Karabo Midleni, here he is, and you just click search. Did I type him correctly? Karabo Midleni, here he is. So you search, and what ACMS will do, it will look for Karabo. And so here he is, Karabo Mitileni. This is the church which he's from, and the church falls under the Trans Orange Conference. And then if you click select, and you start the transfer, then we are now waiting for Highlands North to then see this transfer. But what then happens is when we open this guy's emails, let's go to his emails, to Karabo's emails. Here he is. You get a notification. It says, hello, Karabo, your membership transfer has been started. Test Church has requested the transfer of your membership from Highlands North. And this is where the email addresses are important. A member should be able to see exactly how far the progress is or what is happening with regards to their membership. So the idea is nothing should happen with your membership without you knowing. If you put an email address, the member gets this here. If this is an error, contact your church clerk immediately. Now we know that if, for example, there are two Karabos in this church, Karabo Mitilenis, now you can easily say to the church clerk, no, this is the wrong one. I've never requested this. If it's correct, you just leave the email as it is. So let's say we look at the church where the church clerk in the receiving church, let me go to the church, would then also be able to see this transfer being requested. Let me just place this. And we go to Highlands North. So we click change. So now we're going to the church where the membership currently is sitting, and we want to see what the church clerk that other side is going to see. So when you click on member and transfer, you then see this here. Karabo Mitileni is being requested from here to the test church. So as the church clerk, you have options. You can now click send. If you click send, then that means that this membership can now be moved over to the other side. But the thing to remember is we are Adventists, we follow the church manual. So you don't just click send from the bedroom or from your house any day just because you've seen this thing happen, this request arriving. You need to follow the process of the church. So it means you need to go to the church, inform the church that the test church has requested the membership of Karabo Mitileni, and then the vote needs to happen. We need to still vote for this guy to move. It's the same from the other church. When they receive this, so let's say Highlands North votes and they say agree. So they click and then they put a vote date to say this is the date, and there's a minute number 2505. That's the 5th minute for this year, and you click send. So what then happens is now these people are waiting for the other church to receive. So let's go back to our test church so you can see what is happening. So we go to the church, we've got member, transfer, and now we have these options. So as the test church, we receive the membership of Karabo from the other side. The church that side has voted and they've agreed that they can let go of the membership. And then we now need to vote. We still say, church clerk, don't accept names from home just because you feel like it. Make sure that you follow the correct procedures before you can accept a person. So in this case, we say we could accept. And if you click accept, we need to put the vote date when this person was transferred, when we accepted them into our membership, and we put a minute number. And we could actually cancel the transfer and say, this is actually, Karabo has changed his mind, for example. Say, for instance, in this case, just before you voted, I got a job closer to my home church. And then I say, cancel that thing. So you could say, Karabo has changed his mind. And from here, if you click save, it will send back the membership to the original church to let them know exactly what has happened. But these 3 methods are the way in which we add members. You can add by baptism, you can add an interest, someone who's a child of the church or the church member, or if they are a regular visitor, you add them as an interest. The final way in which you can add a person is by transfer. And those are the steps which I've shown you previously. Now, ACMS doesn't just add membership. Unfortunately, on Earth, we've got people who generally we die. We've got people who decide, I want to shift my membership to another church. We've got people who decide, I no longer want to be an Adventist, or some people generally do something which is against, or rather not going with the word, with the church manual or with the word of God. Then we need to now make certain decisions which are going to remove them from our membership. Now, for that to happen, sorry. Let me go back to ACMS. So for that to happen, as a church clerk, you come to, this is where you are. So if you remember, our church has 7 members. And now we are going to say 1 member passed away. So you go to search on you. In this case, you would then just click on the search button. So these are our members, 7 members. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So let's say, for example, this person called Glass Bottle is the one who passes away. We we baptized them, and he's a member of our church, but now, unfortunately, he passes away. So we can't keep him on our membership because he is no longer a member. So what you would then do is you click on these 3 dots here and you select transaction. And in transaction, you now have to change the status of the person. So what you would then do, you click death. Death is a simple thing. We don't need to vote as a church whether this person died or not. Death doesn't give us a choice to vote. It happens and we need to act accordingly. So in this case, we say this guy passed away on the 14th, for example, and you click update. And what that does is it changes the status of Glass Bottle. Glass Bottle is now red. This is no longer a member. So if we go back to our reports as check member, this last person who we've just removed because of death should be no longer there. So if we check our report again, we have 6 members. This person is no longer there. That is how you remove the first option. The first person that is removed, or the first method in which to remove a person who's no longer a member of our church, in this case, no longer living, is by removing them through death. Now, let's go back to this, to our members. Let's say, for instance, we now have another member. So go to member, search new, who decides, I no longer want to be an Adventist. This person says, I no longer want to be an Adventist. I want to move my membership to ZCC. We can't generally move their membership. Or he'd rather say, I no longer want to be an Adventist. I found a new faith for whatever reason. So let's say it's this Jeremy guy. Let's go with this one. So when you click on these 3 buttons and you click on transaction, we come to the point where it says removal. And in this case, we're selecting add members request. If I come to you as a church clerk, I give you a letter or I send you a WhatsApp, whatever reason, I say to you, remove my membership. You don't have to discuss things. It doesn't require too many things. You can't do anything. You just put the date in which I've made my request, and then you note this thing. So you've got a minute where you are noting. So as a church, you now need to say, look, we've seen the letter, we've accepted it. We see that this person no longer wants to be a member. So in this case, you would click, you create a new minute, and when you update, now this person is no longer a member. But as you can see, it has changed the status to PER. This simply means that this is a person. We know this person and we are hoping that they are going to come back. So the system doesn't forget, but we are there prayerfully hoping that this person comes back. Now, if we go back to reports, we had 7 members when we started, and we removed 2, one through death, one saying that I want to just move away from this church. So when we look at our report, it now shows that we've got 5 members. Right, let's continue. Let's close these 2 reports. Now we are going back to a removal of membership. We go to member, search new. Say, for instance, we have a similar case of a person who decides that they are going to fight with the pastor. So Pastor Maseko comes to your church and he finds that certain things are not going the way they should. And then he starts teaching on the Sabbath, teaches that this is not how we do things, this is not how we do things. But this person here decides, no, I don't want to listen to what the pastor is saying. And he comes and fights with the pastor and he says, no, this is it. And then the pastor comes back, teaches, and then they teach, they show in the church manual, they show spirit of prophecy, they show in the Bible, and this person still teaches the wrong thing, saying, no, this thing is right. So we simply say, no, as a church, we are going to censure you. In the time we are going to censure you, we expect you to read and understand what exactly it is that you are teaching, because you cannot teach the church that eating pork is okay when we know that eating pork is a sin. So now you click on these three buttons. We voted that we are going to censure this person. So you click here and you select under change status, we're going to select censure. Now, you can't just censure a person. As we are saying, you need to vote. So you need to select this button that says received visits. So received visits simply means the pastor went and spoke to this person and the person didn't listen, or they stuck to what they were saying. The church spoke to him, whether it was at church or at his home. We need to talk to the person. So you need to select here to say, yes, they received visits. The second thing you need to select is violation of principles as outlined in the church manual. You cannot censure a person who's doing the right thing. But if the principles are incorrect, as outlined in the church manual, that is now how you can now censure a person. Now you need to select when was the date that the business meeting voted. So let's say the business meeting took place yesterday. So you click on the 15th. We now select how long do we censure this person? And we say 6 months. And now we need a new minute number, 2507. If you've seen what I've been doing, the minute numbers have been increasing. So the first one I started with was 2505. The second one is 2506. This is the third vote that we're having in this church. So we have 2507. And then you would click apply. Now, once you apply, this person is still your member. It's just that they are censured, right? So this is what you're dealing with. As you can see, we've censured this person, but they still appear in our membership. We have not removed them. Now we have the last one. You go to, let's say, Pumlam Vulane transaction. This one we are going to say, this one is selling drugs, for example. And we speak to Pumla and to Pula Vulane, she doesn't want to listen. And she's doing more than just drugs. It's drugs and alcohol. And then we say, hey, we now need to remove you from our membership because what you are doing is violating principles in the church manual. And I've spoken to you a couple of times, but you don't want to accept that these things are wrong. So because of this, we are going to remove you from our membership. So we then would select the date the business meeting voted. So you click the 15th, for example, and then we have to have a minute number. Everything in ACMS, especially with regards to removal of membership, except for death, requires a minute number, meaning you don't just do things without getting things voted for. And when you vote, it needs to be the right committee. You don't just vote with 4 people or with the elder and the pastor in a corner. You now need to make sure that things are done correctly. And as you can see here, date the business meeting voted. And you have to have a minute number. So from here, you click update. And what that will do is that it will remove this person. So now we had a couple of members. When we started, we had 7. Now, when we check our numbers, we should now be having only 4 members because 1 passed away, 1 said, I no longer want to be a member of this church, and 1 was selling drugs and we had to remove them from our membership. But the one that is still here is the one who we've censured. Censuring does not change the status of the member. It just simply says, well, enough for now, we need you to sit down, look at your things, the doctrine that you are teaching, and if it's correct, or rather, when you get to the point where you read and understand the correct thing, you can now come back and start teaching and presenting to the church. But until then, take a seat, just get your things in order. So we've got 4 members now. We had 7, or rather, we started with 6. We baptized 1, that brought us to 7. 1 removed, 1 died, and the other one was also removed because of bad behavior. And now we have these here. And this is ACMS. All we are saying is load your members. Keep your membership updated. When you have a baptism, and just log in that one day If you have 10 people who are baptized, get all 10 of them, get their details, get their email address, so that when you do record, you record the information which is accurate and complete. When there's a death in the church, log into ACMS. Don't even, this one, for a death, it's so easy because you hear that someone died, even when you're sitting at home in the evening, since it doesn't require any vote, you just log in and you remove that person from your membership. If there's a removal of membership due to certain conditions, make sure that you follow the right steps. Make sure the business meeting votes and make sure that you have a minute number because everything needs to be minuted. You do all of this. When it comes to transfers, request the transfer from ACMS so that the other church can see and have accurate membership on their side as well. Don't add a member who's already a member somewhere else. I want to show you exactly what I mean. So if Karabo decides he wants to be a member, don't just click new and and then you add them. So let's say for instance you click new and you want Karabo Mpileni. So if you search, if this person is a member, it will tell you here, here's this guy. This is his birthday, and this is the church that he's in. Don't just click on the new record here. Now you need to say, Karabo, here you are. I see you, your membership is appearing in this particular church. We cannot add you as a member. We need to baptize you. And if he came and he said, sorry, we need to transfer you, we're not baptizing you. But if Karabo just came and said, baptize me, now you start seeing, good, hey, okay, wait, this guy just said we should baptize him. What happened at his previous church for him to leave and then come here and say he wants to be baptized? ACMS also protects us from that. So when you have a member, don't just add, make sure that if you see him somewhere or see her somewhere, call the member, find out what's happening. Call the conference, tell us, Uguchi, hey, we've got this person who just got baptized, but we've just noticed that his membership is sitting in another church. Please connect us with the church clerk, connect us with the pastor, or as a conference, please find out what's happening so that we can know how to proceed with this particular name. But this is ACMS. All we are saying, church clerk, get your login details, keep everything updated so that you have an accurate record and the conference has an accurate record. And if this is correct and accurate on your side, then the union is also very happy because they see exactly what's happening. It gives everyone a clear picture of how things are standing in the conference and in the SAU. For now, this is all for ACMS. Do we have any questions?
Thank you very much, Karabo. Thank you for that beautiful presentation. Colleagues, if there are any questions, I'm just trying to look at the chat. Pumula, if you notice anything, there was just a concern for our members here that the presentation was a bit blurry. They could not clearly see, but we will then either send the presentation or set up an appointment with that particular individual to then have a one-on-one session. But my church clerks, this is your time. If you have any question, yes, you can please ask Loveness friends. You are free, just unmute and ask your question.
Loveness, you are unmuted. Oh, Loveness, we've lost her. Scam Gandla, please continue.
Hello, everyone. I'm sorry, I just got kicked out a bit. I wanna ask in terms of there is a on the ACMS while Karabo was busy going through the church register. I saw that on my side there's a part where it says duplicate, and this person entered our church with the baptism, but it seems they've their name is similar to someone in Zim. So I don't know how to work around that. Because it seems like in our church it's a rebaptism. I'm going to find out more. But as he was going through the ACMS, I went through mine also as he was going, and I realized that we've got one duplicate, and it was entered through baptism into our church, and there's a name again in Zim.
Buli. Buli, please ask your question. Okay, Buli is not speaking. Facility manager, please go ahead. I see you've raised your hand.
I just had two questions. Good morning, everyone. So when we are using the transfer button on the ACMS, then does that mean that we no longer have to write letters like we've been doing and reading them to the church? That's the first one. The second one is I heard Pastor Mkwira when he was presenting before, he mentioned something like minutes. Like, is there a button on ACMS that we can actually use for our minutes for the when we do our church board or church business meetings? Thank you.
Okay.
Good day, colleagues. Can I come in?
Please go ahead.
Okay. Like for all of us who are new, ACMS sound very like quicker in terms of doing things. So now I did send to ask. My name is Wendy Mutwakai, by the way, from Motlake Church. So what I'm asking is, when I start to do it, can I contact you, Abuti so that you can lead me, because it's so long and I don't want to do mistakes. There are so many important things that I need to learn. So I was just asking that.
Okay. Do you have any other questions, Buli?
Can I ask?
Okay, let's go. Let's start with Mashazi.
Oh, I think it's good morning or good afternoon. Yes, I'm new.
It's still morning. It's still
Okay.
morning.
Okay, it's still morning. Okay, good morning. I'm still new. I was elected being a church clerk this year from Naturena Church, but I tried to log in here and then it said I was not registered, so I don't know. But my previous clerk sent my email and everything to you, so I don't know whether I'm still registered or what is happening, because I've never used a MCS. It was my first time to log in, said registered, and then I said it's not registered, my email address.
Okay. That's fine. We'll sort that out. Do you have any other name? Any other
Good
question?
morning.
Pale?
May I speak?
Yes, please go ahead.
I just wanted to ask about the members who are not baptized and don't have family members. In Pimville Church, we have a youth that doesn't have family but comes to our church, especially even people from UJ.
Go ahead. I'm listening. Pale, we've lost you.
Oh, sorry. Where did I end? Okay, I was just asking about members who are youth and don't have family members, but are not yet baptized. So I just
Okay.
wanted to know about those members. Do we add them? But they are regulars at the church.
Okay. And then that's fine. I'll answer you. Thanks, Pale. Shengiwe.
Good morning, all. I just came late into the meeting. Apologies for that. I'm from Middleland Zone 7 SDA Church. We're not using the system yet, but I just wanted to know, when we are loading in members, do we also load the ones that are missing? For instance, when you have a member that is baptized and has their membership with the church, but they are no longer coming and for years. So how do we go about that? Thank you.
Okay. All right. That's fine. Let's now try answer your question. So the first one was about a person who appears in as a duplicate and needs to be rebaptized, or rather they've entered they've been baptized again this side, or it seems good they were baptized again. So there's something which is very important. When you speak to the person, find out exactly why they appear twice. It's possible that you find that it's a person with a similar name and surname. That is very normal, right? Especially in certain countries, like in Zim, a lot of people use the same name, and you find, for example, you find a Moyo, and there's so many of them with that name and surname combination. So try to find out exactly uh, why they are like this. You find that it's not them, but it's someone else. So talk to your member to find out if it's them or if it's someone else. If it is them, then we need to find out what has happened. But if it's someone else, then you've added them into the membership and we're happy. The second question was regarding transfers. Do we still write a letter? No. Once you've done this particular part, you send the transfer to the church. The church clerk who in the receiving church should then see that there's a transfer which has been requested, and they need to now add it to their announcements to say that this is what's happening. But I would also then say, because we are still transitioning to ACMS and we are still pushing, we're still getting a lot of our churches on it, it is safe to write a letter. It's safe to write a letter where you then send via ACMS and write a letter while our two systems, the old one and the new one, are working together. But there will come a time where we'll no longer be using letters, but we'll be using ACMS 100%. We have seen churches that are using ACMS 100%, and they don't want to write letters. They have seen how convenient it is. And so because they've seen it, they choose to not do it, but they want you as the other church to then accept their request or accept their transfer on ACMS. The next thing is, you've mentioned minutes. Minutes still need to be written somewhere else. You need to type them on your Word document. ACMS does not allow you to put all your minutes. Say, for instance, you want to buy a piece of land. That is nothing to do with membership. So when you have a meeting and you agree to buy a piece of land, you're going to go to your church and take out 100,000, buy the land. ACMS doesn't give you that place where you can write your minutes, but you need to put them somewhere else. That is with regards to minutes. You only put minutes for transfers, for removals, anything which has to do anything with membership. That is the only time in ACMS where you put your minutes. With regards to learning how to use ACMS, the beautiful thing is what Pastor Maseko has mentioned. We have ladies who are here who are responsible for ACMS. So the first person to speak to Ceci, I forgot your name. Was it Wendy? I think it was Wendy. If I got it wrong, please forgive me. But I will put the contact numbers for Pumula and Nomvula in our WhatsApp groups so that you can then contact them. They will assist you. The same applies for Usi Suhlengiwe from Middleland Zone 7. You are very blessed because Nomvula actually worships in your church. So I'm going to give you Nomvula and I believe Nomvula should be here. Nomvula, are you here? Let me just check. Nomvula Pakela is here. Nomvula, please work with Usi Slengiwe. She's your member, and you will help her to keep the records in Middleland Zone 7 up to date. Now, if the lady who has a natural, you need to be registered, that's not a problem. We might have missed your name, but we will then register you. I'm still going to use the numbers which I'll be sending in the group to contact one of the two ladies. For your case, I think Nomvula is the one working with Greater Soweto. So she's then going to be the one who contacts you, or rather contact her, and she will register you so that you're able to make use of the system. Now, there's a question which was asked about interests, to say we've got students who are coming, but they're not members, and they're not children of anyone who comes to the church. So I want to show you how you deal with that. So you go to member, search new. I hope my screen is visible, but if anything, we will send the recording of this session or rather we'll put it on YouTube so that later on when you want to view what happens, you can then go back and watch. So we are saying we've got a member, or rather an interest. So we click on this button that says new, and we're going to select an interest. So for this case, we're going to say testing, and then we're going to say UJ student. This is a hypothetical name, and you click search. So you don't add them as a member, you add them as an interest. So when you click on new record, you say this is a male, and you find out their date of birth. You say, oh, this is your date of birth. They were born in 2003, for example, March the 1st. And you add their phone number, you add an email address. And then what you do on the status here, when you click on this, now you've got all of this. The first option we used was to add a child of Adventist parents. This is it. And then you've got a first-time visitor. This is the option which you can put in. So if you're a proactive church clerk, you get your visitor's name, you get their contact details, you add them as a first-time visitor so that in future, we know that this is going to be our person. But for your example, you are saying you are looking for a regular visitor. Here's the option for a regular visitor. So when you click regular visitor and you click save, that's it. You have saved your member. I hope that answers our questions.
Karabo?
Please take questions.
Yeah, well, I was just noticing the silence. Just wanted to check if you also saw the two questions in the chat box. Morning, Brother Karabo from Unati. We don't have a laptop in church, so I can use my laptop. So can I use my laptop or my personal laptop? From Unati Mrs. Alexandra SDA Church. There's also House Wendy. Yes, thank you, Putkarabo. I used to. So, oh, okay. No, that's fine. So the other question is, can they use their personal laptops?
First question, yes, you can definitely use your personal laptop. If you don't have a laptop in the church, we encourage you to use your church laptop, your personal laptop for now. But let's also encourage the church to get laptops for our people so that we can separate work and personal things and church things. Let's get a church laptop. But for now, yes, you can use a church laptop. Can I use my phone? I'm just seeing the message. We don't encourage you to use your phone. It takes a longer time. It's a bit slower, but you can use your phone. If you are patient, then yes, go ahead, use your phone. I think for now, Mfundis Maser, do we have any more questions?
I'm not seeing any. So I suppose this is it. Did Ronnie Moyo ask? Ronald Ronnie Moyo?
No, Ronald did not ask anything.
I think he was saying, can I ask a question? My
Please
church
go.
But if not, then that should be it, KB.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Oh, there's someone who wants to speak.
Okay, sorry, it's me again. Mashazi, I did not get it right. You said you are not supposed to write the letters because I've noticed I've wrote 3 letters to other churches and they are not responding. So which means they are on the system now. That's why they are not responding.
Can we have those churches?
Yeah, it was Kelvin. I asked a transfer note to Kelvin for Siyabonga Mdluli. They did not respond. I even sent an email that.
Just give me the church names.
Oh, okay. Kelvin SDA. Yes, it's only Kelvin, sorry, SDA. Some
for the 3 names.
No, I said I wrote 3, but some they have responded, but this one did not respond. So I was wondering why they don't respond. So I
Oh,
thought maybe they are on the system already, because I heard, maybe I misunderstood you when you said they must not use letters anymore. You must use the SMS.
okay. So it's very possible. I know Calvin, we have sat with them and they are using ACMS. But if you're having trouble getting them, because it's possible that you might, they might be missing some communication, let us know and then we'll assist you.
Okay.
And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to send the email address for the people who want to register for ACMS. We encourage all of you, if you are not already using it, make use of the email address that we are going to send you, so that you send your name, you send your church name, you send your personal email address and your position. So if your name is Karabo Mitile and you put it there, Highlands North, karabosm@gmail.com is my personal email address, and your position. So I would say church clerk, so that we know exactly which church you belong to and what your position is. And then we'll send you the ACMS registration link so that you can register and make use of the system. And then I will also send the recording later when we are finished with this meeting, so that all of us and others who were not able to join are able to recap and follow what we did in this meeting. Pastor
All right,
Maseko?
Brother Ronnie wants to ask a question. Yes, Brother Karabo, I got a question. So if you can go ahead, my leader. Brother Ronnie Moyo, if you are not able to speak, unmute and talk, you may type your question in the chat box, because I see his message here saying he does want to ask a question. Maybe while we are waiting for him, Karabo, let's conclude by
Please, can I
okay,
speak?
proceed, yes.
Yes, thank you very much, and good morning. I'm Ronald Ron Moyo from Vineyard Estate Church. Vineyard Estate Church, we have just organized as the church last year in July by Pastor Mashango. So we have this an issue that I found that in the clerk's office, I found that there is one family which the woman has been baptized, but not a man. But the woman is a second wife, while the first wife he divorced it. But the husband has got membership in the record. So I don't know, how can you help me about this issue to our church? Because the husband, I found him already has been baptized, and he got the membership. And then while I was not a church clerk, I saw he married another wife, a second wife. And that second wife was on a Bible class, and she has been baptized it was last year. So we have this issue. I don't know how can, as a church clerk, how can I do? What can I do on this issue? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, my elder. Just mute your gadget, elder. All right, I was saying this one is quite sensitive. We may need to actually discuss this with you and the local pastor, so that we are able to guide each other as the office. Because I need to get clarity also as to whether you are saying this particular person divorced and remarried, or you are saying this particular individual is in a polygamous relationship, meaning was married to one wife, then got married to another wife, which then I would not understand how they managed to do that if they were legally married and under the Civil Act. So we may need to actually talk to each other after this meeting. My leader, just get in touch with me. Karabo can also, you can just share my telephone number in the chat, Karabo, so that the leader can get hold of me, so that we try to address this sensitive matter, because this one is quite sensitive, and I think it's not something we should deal with or deliberate on in this particular platform, since it involves people who may even find out that they were discussed in such a forum. But thank you very much for that question, my elder. And I'm glad now that I know your church will follow it up and will make sure that that matter is properly addressed. All right, the last one that I wanted to say, Brother Karabo, is that let us not forget to encourage our clerks that we are now migrating to ACMS. Ideally, we want every church to be on ACMS. Our team from the TOC have been in touch with your pastors, and maybe some of you might have also received calls from them or the previous clerks from your churches. We were requesting for you to send us a copy of your record book, the membership of your church, so that we load you to the to the ACMS system manually. In other words, if you can't by yourself register on SMS or migrate your church from the book to the ACMS system, we assist by ensuring that we manually upload all record books to the system. And when you baptize or do anything, we also encourage, we already discussed this with all the pastors in the TOC, that whenever there's baptism and you know that you are not on ACMS, please forward those names to us so that we manually upload them. And maybe we need to get to a point where we also say, even when you need assistance with the removal of names, whether through death or discipline or whatever, speak to us so that we also try to assist you from the TOC offices. But we are trying to make sure that every church in the TOC is now on ACMS, and most of them are. So I'm basically just saying, please accelerate that and ensure that we get all our churches on ACMS. But Brother Karabo, thank you very much for that presentation. And thank you for responding to all the questions that were asked here. Since now we are getting to the third part of our training, and we just have 2 presentations to make, and after this, we will then entertain questions and answers. After that, we will then speak about nurture and retention, then we will be ready to close. If we close earlier, it will be a blessing because we would have saved you a lot of data. But if you still have questions or you want to engage, we will not close you out. We will allow you to also engage, ask questions, so that we make sure that you are well empowered when you leave this training to go back to your church and be effective in what you do. So now what we want to speak about is the work of a church clerk, the practical work of a church clerk. This will also be handy, this presentation and the next one, for those who are newly elected, who have never been church clerks in the past. I'm sure and should be able to assist you as well, and should be able to also answer some of the questions that you might have. Also, someone is saying, as we are migrating, do we have a deadline for full migration? The deadline has actually passed. The previous clerk should have shared this information as part of the handover. Deadline has passed. I think deadline was, we were already supposed to be on ACMS by 2022 already. So as it is right now, the General Conference only considers membership that's on ACMS. If your church is not on ACMS, when we count or when we do our stats as a conference or as the World Church, then your church is not included in that statistics because you are not in ACMS. So basically, even when I send my report to the union, I can no longer include your stats if you are not on ACMS. And that is why we've been accelerating, calling pastors and church clerks and churches, asking that if you can't be on ACMS by yourself, please send your record book to us so that we upload you manually, because now we understand that we are at a point where if you are not on ACMS, your numbers are not counted, and it also affects us as a conference because it drops our membership. So we need to be on ACMS, like all of us. Let's accelerate that. If you can't, due to certain challenges, all you can do is get in touch with the team, as Karabo said earlier on. Make sure that you send your record book. Then we will manually upload you. And then if you need any assistance, removal, just get in touch with us. We have a team, fully equipped team here in the office that is ready to assist you with anything. All right, now let's come to the practical work of a church clerk. Let's start with the first presentation, and then we will go to the second one. I will also try to be quick on these ones, so that we save our time and allow you to also engage if it's necessary. Now, what are the functions of a church clerk? Of course, Pastor Ngura touched briefly on this. The functions of a clerk, it's record keeping, writing church board and business minutes and business meeting minutes. We all know this by now. Reporting to the conference. Reporting is very, very important, especially reporting your stats to the TOC. We usually send a link every quarter. Karabo has created a link we share in our church clerks groups, and then we then request church clerks to fill in that information and send it to us. But the response is quite poor from our church clerks, and I hope that will improve with this new team of church clerks that is here. So when that link is shared, just click on the link. We are trying to make your job easier. Back in the days, you would fill in a form and send it to the tube, but now to make things even easier for you, we just share a link with you, something that you can even fill in on WhatsApp. You don't even have to write or get a pen or whatever. So please make sure that when you receive that link, you share your stats with us and you send it to the TOC. It is your responsibility. So you, as the local church clerk of the church, you do not only send your report to the church board and business meeting, you are also expected to send a report to my office, the office of the executive secretary in the TOC. So you are my team. We work together. A church clerk effects membership changes, whether through baptism, whether through professional faith, but whatever. When it comes to membership, the church clerk's function is to effect membership changes in the record book of the church. Membership transfers is the responsibility of the church clerk. You do all membership transfers. We already spoke about that. Session delegate submission. Delegates are only submitted. The church manual is very clear on that. When you have, we are going to session this year in October. When you have selected your delegate as a church, the delegate is sent to my office by the church clerk of the church, not by the pastor, not by the elder, but you as the clerk must write a letter with your signature in it. Then you can either have the signature of your elder or your pastor accompanying yours in that letter. I do not mind that, but I just need to put emphasis that when we receive delegates, we expect the delegate from the church to be coming from the church clerk of the church after it will have been voted by the business meeting of the church, and we will speak about the procedure later on as we speak here. Corresponding with absent members, one of the key functions of the church clerk is to correspond with absent members. In other words, what we are saying here is when your member is not present on Sabbath, it should be your burden before you take it to the deacons or the elders or the pastor for visitation. You as a church clerk should ask yourself, why didn't I see Mr. Mitileni in church today? Then it is your responsibility to correspond with absent members. In fact, I encourage members, or rather church clerks, that let's revive the culture of reporting when we are not going to be present in our local churches. In other words, let's begin to teach our church members that if you know that you are not going to be present on a particular Sabbath, you are going away for either an appointment, your grandmother who is sick in a different town, please report to the church clerk. You remember back in the day, the clerk does announcement, they would also mention that today we do not have such and such a family. They are not with us because they have gone in such a place, or they are visiting so and so, or they have gone for holiday. They are, brother so and so is preaching in such a particular church. We need to revive that so that we ensure that we know exactly where our members are. It starts with the church clerk, and we'll also put more emphasis on this when we speak about the letter retention and reclamation later on and its function. But one of the key functions of the clerk is corresponding with absent members. If you have not done it, sit down, look at your church record book, ask yourselves where are these members, and go and find them, call them, find out where they are, why weren't they at church, and start talking to them. All right. And then the other function of the church clerk is to list committees with memberships and terms of reference. In other words, your other function as a church clerk is to list all committees, subcommittees, Sabbath school subcommittee, personal ministries, all the sub-finance committee at local church level. You need to have all the committees at your desk with all their terms of references and outlining their duties. So in other words, I've been to a number of churches where my churches would tell me that we do not know, we don't understand the composition of the Sabbath school, or rather of the personal ministries board or subcommittee, or the subcommittee of the music department. Or it is your responsibility to go to the church manual, find all, because they are in the church manual, and we do have a template as well that lists all of this, which I can ask Karabo to also assist you and share it with you. But as a church, you need to have all these committees. And if your churches or your church members or your departmental leaders don't know the subcommittees or the members of the subcommittee or the composition of the subcommittees that they need to work with, you as a church clerk should then assist them and help them to come up with those committees and work with them, and make sure that all subcommittees within your church are functioning or are functional. It is the responsibility of the church clerk as well to do that. All right. Record keeping, all records of officers, meaning even if you have meetings with your officers, which Pastor Ngwira spoke about earlier on, when you plan the agenda and stuff, try to take minutes of all of those meetings. Make sure that you record everything on a separate document, just so that your archives are properly kept. And if things need to be remembered in the future, or someone can't remember what was said, how did the item come about, then you as a church clerk are able to go to your archives and draw that particular minute and say, my pastor and church clerk, when we were busy trying to come up with the church, or rather with the agenda for that particular meeting, this is what was discussed and this is what we agreed upon. So try to take all minutes, including minutes of officers. All records, of course, are to be with the church clerk, and then church clerk district. And when we say all records given to new church clerk, we are speaking about now records when a church clerk leaves office, they must hand over all records to the incoming one, which then the incoming church clerk will then distribute to the officers and then give them to the pastors and elders on request, on if they need them, or rather on request. Record book, this one is for those churches that are still using the book and not on ACMS, which I'm lately trying to even discourage speaking about the record book part, because I want all churches to migrate to ACMS. But basically on the record book, you'll discover that there is a membership section, and at the back of the record book, there's a minute section where in the front you write the members of the church, but at the back there's a section where the record book actually allows you to also record the minutes of the church. So that's the book, but I don't want to dwell much on that, because as I said, I can't be encouraging you to go to ACMS and be the one who also put emphasis on the book. All right. Membership section. This one, I think it's important to note that when you record your membership, whether you are still using the book system or you're on ACMS, members are to be kept chronologically and not alphabetically. In other words, when you say they must be kept chronologically, you are going to record a member as there. If in other words, I'm going to be baptized in 2022 and another member will get baptized in 2023, I am going to be on top of the one who was baptized in 2023. In other words, you write them chronologically according to who came in first. If you were to write them alphabetically, you are then going to say, I'm writing all A's, all B's, all C's, but that's not how we record membership. Membership is recorded chronologically. You write members as they join the church, not necessarily according to the alphabets of their names or their surnames. All right, the membership entry not to be blank. We don't need to speak to that. Supporting documents for each member to be filed. So whenever you receive a member, whether it be by transfer, whether it be by profession of faith, we encourage that please file those documents. If right now I want to join Middlelands Zone 3 or Zone 7, I come in through transfer, you must also in your records ensure that you file that transfer letter in your ACA. Make sure that that letter that came from my church to your church is properly filed. Don't get rid of it once it has been voted. So whatever comes, whether it is through profession of faith, usually when you take a member through profession of faith, we encourage you that before you vote for that member, you must write to the conference and ask for advice. The manual actually says speak to the president before you accept a member on profession of faith. But we advise that you consult the conference before you take anyone on profession of faith, so that we look at the matter and we assist. Because sometimes you want to take people on profession of faith because you've been with them for 10 years and you've never even attempted to try and find their membership. Or sometimes you wrote to their church like you are writing to Kelvin and Kelvin does not respond. And as a result, you decide, because we've been with this person for 10 years, this person is a good preacher, is a good teacher, he's even assisting our elder, and we see that he's an asset, we need to use this person in our church. Then you decide we are going to take them on profession of faith. When you do that, this particular person will have a dual membership. They will still have a membership at Kelvin and in your church. So to avoid that, we then advise that you first write to us and then narrate your story to us. Tell us what are the challenges, why you want to take this particular member on profession of faith. If it be a case of you are trying to get membership and you are unable to, then we as a conference will then try to liaise with the concerned church and ask them to assist in releasing that membership. If there's a matter, the membership is lost or the member is not there or there are issues there, then we will respond to you after having consulted with that particular church in question and let you know that now you can take the member on profession of faith. But if there's anything we can do, then we will let you know also that there is no need to take the member on profession of faith. We spoke to Kelvin and they will release the member as per your request. So before you accept any member on profession of faith, I'm going to plead with you once again, please make sure that you communicate with the conference so that we advise you before you do that. All right, membership removal. Whenever you remove a member, make sure that the reason for removal is noted. This will also make the job of the incoming church clerk easy. When the new coming church clerk comes in and I come 10 years later and I say, I'm a member of this church, when you look at your record, you should be able to say, yeah, you were a member, but your name was removed from our records. And then when I say, why did you remove it? Then your record should be able to tell you that you were removed here according to my records. The church thought you were dead, so they removed you. So we are shocked that you are alive. Or we removed you because you disappeared for 2 years, so we dropped you as missing. So you were removed as missing. Or you were removed because the then church board and business meeting said and discovered that you had apostatized or joined whatever, then we decided to discipline you by removing you from the record books. Then that is why you're not in the room. You are able to answer. If you do not know, and then you just see a member was there but removed, but then ask, but why was I removed? And you yourself can't even answer, why was I not removed? Then it becomes a problem. One thing I've noticed is I've been away from my home church where I grew up for over 20 years now. I think it's about 25 years or so. And I'm realizing now that when I go to my church where I grew up, faces have changed. People are gone. There are a number of new people that I don't even know. Like over 50% of the church is not people I grew up with. And then you then get some old ladies there and people who would know me. But most of the people have moved, some are gone. There are a lot of changes. So if I were to go back to that church now and claim I was a member when my name has been removed, chances are the leadership that is currently at my church will not even know, who I am, what happened. They will not even understand what happened in the past. And as a result, then it causes confusion. And we might end up saying, because we also don't know, then we are then accepting you. So make sure that the reasons are well noted. If it is apostasy, you write and you even include the business meeting date, that on such and such a date, this is when the decision was taken. If it was through death, you also note the date. If it was a transfer, you write the date of receiving the return certificate. And I want to also put emphasis here. You write the date of the receiving of the return certificate, because you don't drop a member from your record book until you receive the return certificate. What I mean by this is, if you write to my church and ask for my membership, and my church releases my membership to you, when you get my membership, my church will not drop that membership until you write to them and acknowledge that I have received your membership, rather that we have, as this particular church, received the membership, and that we have added member into our. Please, madam, please, we can hear you. Please mute your gadget. All right. So I was saying, only after you have received the return certificate do you drop a member. Before that, you don't drop any member. Just because the transfer has been released from our side does not necessarily mean we are dropping the member. We'll only drop when the other church acknowledges receipt of our member and confirming that we have now added this member into our record books. Then only do you then drop that member from your record books. And then missing, if you drop the member, remember the church manual is clear. If a member disappears for 2 years, the manual allows you to drop this member as missing. However, I also need to put emphasis here. You cannot say a member is missing if you know where the member is. The manual says no member shall be disciplined for non-attendance. We don't discipline for members for non-attendance. We work for them. There are two things that the manual clearly states. It says we don't discipline members for non-attendance. It says we don't discipline members for non-remittance. However, the manual says we do not choose members who do not set a good example through remittance into leadership positions. In other words, we don't elect members who do not conform to the standard, or rather who do not remit tithes. But we don't discipline members for not remitting, and we don't discipline members for non-attendance. So missing people, we can drop them after 2 years, but before we drop them as missing, we need to satisfy ourselves as a church that we did make an effort to try to find out where this particular person is. And if, by the way, if you know that I've moved to Cape Town, I got a job in Cape Town, and I disappear for 3 years and I don't take my membership, and you as a church or the church clerk does not even make the effort to get in touch with me, you cannot drop me as missing because you know where I am. You must rather call me and advise me to take my membership. In fact, I think we'll come to it later on, where it clearly states that when your member is moving away, as a church clerk, it should be your burden to actually even assist them to find a church where you call the pastor of the church or the district or the conference of where they are going and let them know that our members is moving to that territory. Please visit them and ensure that they have a soft landing. So you only drop members that you can say, for 2 years, this person has disappeared. We don't know where to find them. We don't know where they are. Then you drop them as missing. And this can only be done by the business meeting. The church can only recommend, but it cannot drop or remove any member. All right. Requested removal. If a member requested removal, the church manual has a provision for this. It actually uses the word resignation. There are people who resign from membership. A person can write to you and say, I'm asking to resign from my membership from the Adventist church. I see no value in being an Adventist anymore, so please remove me from the records. In fact, the manual says this will be discussed without public discussion. In other words, it will be dealt with without public discussion. It is the right of the member to withdraw his name from our church. We don't force anyone to be a member by force, and we have no right to even say no to their request. Without any public discussion, as per the church manual, we will then allow this person to go in peace. However, the manual says when we have granted that request, we as a church should make efforts to work for that soul and try to keep in touch with them, and if possible, try all in our best to win back that soul back to the church of God. So a person has a right, but if they ask to request to be removed, you also note the board date next to that name, that they were removed because they requested to be removed from our church records. All right, let's move to the next one. Let's come to the minutes section. Now, when it says to be used sparingly, it's speaking about that record book that we spoke about, that when you write on that record book, because it's not sufficient, you must try to use that book sparingly. Record actions, not discussions. But of course, as I've said earlier on, we are moving away from that book. But for those that are still using that book, maybe the advice there is when you write on that book, please try to use it sparingly. And remember, when we record minutes as church clerks, we do not write discussions, we write decisions. You don't write that this is what we discussed, so and so said, so and so responded and said, then eventually the church decided to vote with. No, you just write the decisions of the meeting. And then we have a very important preamble, which I'm going to put emphasis on later on. We use whereas. If you want to give a context so that we understand what transpired here, you can use whereas Meadowlands Zone 7 decided to buy new chairs because the old chairs are finished and they were beginning to break. Whereas the deacons were assigned with the responsibility to find a quotation to be voted for by the church board and implemented, voted to mandate, blah, 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 to buy, something like that. But you don't write the whole discussion. Just give that preamble of whereas, give a brief context of what transpired, then write the action. 3 sentences should be enough. If it can be 1 or 2, even better. Now, when you write the minutes, one other important thing to those that are new in the department, please make sure that your minutes have the date and time of meeting. So meaning when you write your minutes, you need to make sure that the date and time of the minutes is properly recorded on your minutes. 2, the nature of the meeting. What meeting is this? Church board meeting or business meeting? It should be clearly stated on your minutes that these are business meeting minutes. This is church board minutes. This is the whatever board. Make sure that the nature of the meeting is clearly stated. Presiding officer and members present. You also need to write who the presiding officer of that meeting is, and then write all the members present in that particular meeting. If you are in the church board, for instance, you can write there that Pastor Chefu chair, and then you write the secretary, then you write all the members who are there. If there are too many, you are in a big church, then you can circulate an attendance register. I know that in the past, my previous executive secretary, my colleagues were encouraging that we should no longer circulate an attendance register because people write people who are not even present in meetings. So rather, as the church clerk from your chair, you know your members, write the names of the members yourself. But then either way, bottom line is you need to make sure that you have an attendance register, and that in your attendance register, you wrote all the members that are there. And even when you write meeting, your minutes should reflect who was the chair and who were the members who were present in that particular meeting. 10 years later, when I look at your minutes, I should be able to see that at such and such a date at Orlando East, there was a meeting which took a decision like this. This is the person who was chairing. It was Pastor Nemaranje, or in his absence, it was Elder Nkosi. And these were the decisions that were taken. And the members who were there are these members. Then it becomes more, even when you use it, that document becomes more credible to even refer to in the future. Make sure that your apologies are also noted. Don't proceed with the meeting until you have also noted apologies from absent members. If your chair proceeds without this, remind your chairperson that we have not noted the apologies. Agenda should be included, action or resolutions, and implementation. Let me show you an example of what we are talking about here. So here's the example of what I want to show you. So when you write your minutes, you must write something like this. Every agenda item that you discuss should have an action. So here we have action 22.17. We're discussing rates and taxes as the church board. So you write there that 22.17 or 22.01 if it's your first meeting. Then this is the agenda item, rates and taxes on top. Then now you write your action. voted to negotiate installments and pay regularly. You can see here that the author did not bother themselves, getting into the discussions of the meeting. We had a meeting, we discussed this, you don't have, if you want to give a brief context, you can put a preamble. Whereas we received a letter from the municipality stating that we have we have areas, pertaining or regarding our rates and taxes, and then voted to negotiate installments and pay regularly. So you write something like this instead of writing a whole discussion. As you can see, this person, just one sentence, they are done with their minutes. So when we speak of minutes, we want something like this: item, action number, action. That's all you write. And then, if possible, we now try to encourage that. Write also the implementation of that particular action, that the person who's supposed to implement this will be the treasurer, and this will be done on a monthly basis, or whichever department will be responsible for that. Reporting, I spoke about reporting earlier on. I said quarterly statistical report, you need to report this. It's even in the church manual. Every clerk should every quarter send their stats to the conference. And as I've said earlier, to actually try to meet you halfway, because there's a very poor culture of reporting in our conference. Karabo created a link. We only send you the link. You can even fill it using your phone. Any smartphone can do that. We please kindly ask you to please ensure that you fill in that that statistical report and submit it to us. If you don't do that, you affect us, because we cannot have proper stats for our conference without your report from the local church. You must also report same to the church board and the business meeting. They also need to know how their church is doing in terms of growth, drop, and all of that. It is your responsibility to also keep your church board and your business updated. You report to the pastor, you report to the conference, and then you keep that same copy for your church. Keep it in your archives. Whatever report you send to me, you also keep a copy in your archives. 10 years later, when I come to the church, I should be able to see that in 2025 first quarter, this is the report you sent to the TOC. It makes life easier if we do that. Other reports of officers, other reports of other officers to the conference secretary. You can also send other reports of other officers in your local church to my office. All right, let's come to this effecting membership changes. When we started, we said effecting membership changes, it's one of the functions or duties of a church clerk. Now, you cannot effect a membership change without a vote. You can't add or remove a without a vote. There is no clerk who can either add a name or remove a name from the record book if there was no vote regarding that matter. Whether a person get baptized, after the baptism, the church must vote to then accept that member into the membership of that particular church. Whether the membership comes through a transfer letter, the church should vote that I be transferred in. Whether it comes by profession of faith, that thing should also be voted for by the church. Whether you want to drop me as missing, that should also be voted for by the church. Whether it is apostasy or discipline, it should also be voted for by the church. And by the way, the church board recommends the business meeting votes. So of all the first 5 things that I've mentioned here, you cannot remove any name under no circumstances from the record book when the church has not voted. That is why for those who are on ACMS, if you want to remove a name, ACMS will ask for the action number. They will want to know what was the action number, when was the date of the business meeting that voted to remove this person. If you want to add a member, same question will be asked, because you can't add or remove a name without the vote of the church, no matter how small it seems. Even if you see that, but we all know that this member should be removed, don't take it to the church board and business meeting to be voted for before you change your books. Even if your elder or pastor tells you this person is gone, they are worshiping in Alberton, remove them. You don't even remove Albertine members, and I need to emphasize this, you don't even remove people who are in Albertine from your record book without the vote of the church. You must take that to your church, let the church vote that as a church we are taking a decision that since these people decided to go there, we are now going to remove them from our record book. Or even when people are baptized, just because we were there and we witnessed that our children were baptized, including my child, does not give you the right to then go and add these people in the record book. You don't do that. You take the matter to the church only when the church has voted for these members to be members of this church. Then do you then add them into your record book. Now, these are the only changes you can do without vote. First one is death. If a person dies, this one does not require a vote. It just requires the date of the death of that particular individual. You can just write next to the name that so and so passed away on such a date. We don't need a business meeting and church board to vote that we saw that our head deacon passed away last week, they must be removed. That you can do without a vote. No any other. The other one, it says resignation. If you look at the manual says resignation. It says church board will accept without public discussion. This is the only provision that the manual gives that the church board can actually come up to a conclusion. In other words, the manual does not clearly state that when a member resigns, it must be then taken to business. It says the board should accede to this without public discussion. In other words, this should be as private and treated as sensitivity it deserves and allow that person to go and report to the business meeting. But we are trying to avoid a point where you then create a dialogue at a business meeting level and you speak about a member who has decided to resign. And you know, assuming that whatever circumstances that led to that were sensitive circumstances. Now, we spoke about this already, receiving church, granting church. So let me just quickly mention this in a minute or two, that when a member comes, when I come to your church from another church and I want to be a member of that church, I then come to you as my church clerk and ask that you request for my membership, or my church clerk from my home church. Actually, the church manual says if your member is going to be away for more than 6 months, call that member as a church clerk and advise them to take their membership. So if you have members who are moving away from work, you as the church clerk should actually take the initiative to pick up the phone and say, my member from Rivonia or from Terfontein, now that you are moving away, you are going to be staying in Libuahom or Polokwane. I am advising for more than 6 months. Whether the person says, I'm only going for a year, I'm coming back next year. Yes, if it's going to be more than 6 months, take your membership go with it to Sishiko so that you are able to work. Then when you come back home, there's nothing that will hurt you from taking your membership again back home. We don't stop you from, you can transfer your membership as much as you want to. So as long as you are going to be away for more than 6 months, please take your membership and go away with it. So, or when as a clerk, you see a member who has been coming to your church 3 weeks, 4 weeks now, you as a clerk can also approach that member and say, you've been with us for some time. How long do you plan to be here with us for? Then when they tell you, then tell them, I then encourage you, my member, to please take your membership and bring it to our church. And then when it's time for you to go back, you will then take your membership to wherever you want to go to. But a member asks or consents. In other words, you as a clerk don't have the right to ask for anybody's membership, consent of that person. That person should agree to you requesting. You can't say just because I've been with you for 12 years, you know that I'm from this church, then I hear my name being read without you talking to me. Make sure that I agreed to you requesting my membership first. Then, as my church clerk, then you write to that church in particular. Then when the church receive your letter, the church board will sit, look at your letter, then they will send a recommendation to the business meeting or to the church. Then a first reading will be done. Then second reading will be done and a vote will be taken. And once the church vote, and then the membership will be. So basically what happens here, if you look at receiving and granting, in receiving, okay, in granting membership, And I've heard this question before, someone asking me, when a member wants to take their membership out, do I take this matter to the church? The church manual says yes. You must, when I say I want to take my membership out of the church, you as the clerk must first take the matter to the church board to tell them I want to take the membership out. Then the church board will then take it to the church, do the first, second reading, and then send it to the church. And then when the church receives it, then the church clerk will then take it to the board as well, then does the first reading, does the first, the second reading, and then send the membership to my church, then my church captures that membership. And when the membership is captured after the 2 readings have also been done, then the church that has received the membership will then write the return certificate to the membership that held my membership before, and then tell them that we've accepted the member, you can drop them. Then only does my church then drop me. So this is how the process of membership, or rather of transferring membership, goes at local church level. All right. Maybe I should also mention this, that according to the church manual, a membership transfer is a 6 months process. In other words, after 6 months, the letter expires. Like, for instance, someone spoke about a letter they wrote to Kelvin asking for membership. Should 6 months pass without Kelvin having responded to that particular request, it will mean that that request has now expired. You must then write a new letter requesting for my membership. That is only after 6 months. So a letter of transfer is only valid for 6 months. Corresponding with absent members, I already touched on this, that you must keep in touch with the absent members. And then if I move away to East London for some reason, the best thing you do as my church clerk, since I'm moving to a different conference, you write to my office, and then you ask me that my member has moved to such and such a place. I'm requesting that they be visited by the pastor or elder of that particular church for nurture and transfer, so that that church can know that this is a member that came from such. So we are basically trying to coordinate the movements of our members, and it is the work of the church clerk. In other words, when members move away, it should be your burden as a clerk to make sure that wherever they are going, they will find a church, and that they will be comfortable, and that they will land softly. Assist them in this. It will do away with this thing of members moving away, struggling to find a church, and finding themselves 6 months not having gone to church. One thing I've learned about not attending church, the longer you stay without going to church, the harder it becomes for you to go back to church. All right. All right, they say here, report to the church, news and progress about that particular member, all of that, but it's basically about a member who has moved away from the church. This one we've already spoke. We already spoke about submission of session delegates that the church board or committee nominates. By the way, the church manual is clear on this. When you choose a delegate is chosen by the church board, not chosen, recommended by the church board. But the manual also says the church may also appoint a committee to look into this and recommends a delegate. And when the church board or the committee has recommended a delegate, that delegate is then taken to the business meeting for a vote. And once the business meeting votes for that delegate, then the church clerk sends the name to the conference secretary as advised by the conference. So when we go to session this year, when I start asking for delegates from your churches, I am only going to I'm only going to receive delegates sent to me by church clerks. I'm not going to receive delegates sent by any other person. Only if that letter of a delegate has the signature of a church clerk will I accept. And needs of a church clerk, quarterly stats held by pastor. Much as we require church clerks to send statistics to the conference, we also expect the pastor to send quarterly statistics. So the pastor and the church clerk should work hand in hand, help each other to ensure that they send stats to the conference every quarter, because the same report that you send as the clerk is the same report that the president will want from the pastor. They have a reporting template as pastors, and every month they must also record that this is the stats of my church. We baptized so much, we lost so much every month. Actually, with them, they don't even do it quarterly. It's a monthly thing. They also report as pastors the remittance of the church. This is how much the church remitted. Every month, they submit that to the president. Now, if you don't have this report, you also affect your local pastor, because then his report comes incomplete to the president, and the president will want to know, why don't we have this information in your report? A church clerk should have a church manual. No clerk should run the church without. As a church manual, you need to make, as a church clerk, you need to make sure that you own a church manual. Don't only own it, try to read it as much as you can. I said one trick of learning the church manual is, whenever there's an issue that you are going to discuss in the church board, read, go through that particular look, go to the index, check the manual, check what does the manual say about that particular topic. Before you know it, by the end of your term, you'll discover that you have so much information that was acquired just by, doing this research as you go to church boards, as opposed to you sitting at home reading from cover to cover. In case reading is not your hobby, or you are lazy to read, my advice to you is, whenever you go to the board, if you are going to discipline a member, don't go to the church board as a church clerk without knowing what does the church manual say about discipline. Read it. If you have a member who has divorced as a church clerk, and this matter is going to the manual, we are going to discuss divorce today. There is a whole section on divorce and remarriage, and it's not even long. It won't even take you 30 minutes to read that. Go through that section as a church clerk. Know what does the manual say about that, so that when you get to the church board, then you look competent and you are able to advise your church board. Computers for ACMS, we are now moving to ACMS. We are advising churches to have computers, but if your church does not have a computer, you can use your computer for now. May God bless, we appreciate that, but we strongly advise that churches should start investing in their own computers as local churches. Reports of other departments, coordinate the reporting of other departments. In other words, every quarter, ensure that the youth reports to the board and business meeting, SSPM, Sabbath school. It is the work of the church clerk to make sure that you follow up on this particular function. I didn't know this for some time. I actually went through it as I was also looking at the church manual, and realized that actually reporting belongs to Secretariat. So you are the one who should push your departmental leaders to report to the church board. Let them submit reports every quarter to the church board and the business meeting. Create a report template for them so that they are able to report to the church. Policy education programs. Not only should you know policy, but come up with policy education programs so that you also educate your local church about the policies of the church, so that you are not frustrated when you do your work as a church clerk. Safes for church stationery. Of course, if you must keep archives and all of that, you are going to need a safe as a church clerk. Ask your church to invest in a safe for you, where you are going to keep all the records, so that when a new clerk comes, you do the handover, you just refer them to that safe. I want to, when I come to pastor your church 10 years from now, go to that safe and find information that will go as back as 1995, all minutes, everything, including the letters of transfer, profit, everything should be there in that particular safe, nicely stored, so that there are no gaps in between. All right, so this is the end of the first presentation. It's now 20 to 12. Let me take the last 20 minutes and do the last presentation, and then allow you to engage me with questions, and let's talk before we come to the very last part, then we close this. I just want to do this so that we use our time effectively. I'm gonna try not to take too long on this one. For those of you who are new in this thing, in the Secretariat department, your question is probably, what are the duties? Not duties, actually, what are the qualities of a church clerk? I've already told you what your work is and how you must do your work. I also just want to take you through this one quickly, and then after this one, it's not a long one, it should be a short one. Pastor Ngwira already spoke on the 5 M's. By now, you know what the 5 M's are all about. I'm not going to speak about this one. Now, let's just quickly go through this one. Now, the first one, qualities of a clerk. Who is a church clerk? What kind of a person should a church clerk be? Firstly, a church clerk should exhibit maturity. A church clerk needs to be a matured person. And why do I say a church clerk needs to be a matured person? It's because you sit in very sensitive boards. You work too close to the pastors and elders. You'll most probably know everything about the church. Your knowledge should not affect how you view people in the church. You cannot come, let's say you come to Malihambe, you come to that church from Mamelodi Central in Pretoria. When you get to Malihambe, you bring your membership. We eventually make you our church clerk. And then while you are a church clerk in that particular church, then you go through the records and you discover from the church clerk records that there was once a case a few years later of this particular individual who was disciplined because of 1, 2, 3. And when you get to the church, only to discover that that particular individual who was disciplined for misconduct or whatever is now the head elder of the church. And because of the information that you have, then you begin to now look different at people. So a church clerk should be matured so much that you are matured even with the sensitive information that you get. In the past, I used to make examples and say, when I came into the Secretariat office, one of the things I discovered is that there are minutes in this conference of many years. There's like everything. If I want to know what happened in the TOC in 1995, I can just simply go through the minutes and then check what happened in 1995, who was the president, what decisions did the did the executive committee of the conference take, who was disciplined, why were they disciplined. So in other words, there's so much information. Okay, just a minute. Sorry about that. It's the president at the door. I'm sorry, it was the president, Pastor Nechiflan. So when my boss calls, I needed to respond. We are sitting in the office. I was saying, now I discovered that from my office right now, I can actually go to the minutes of the TOC, and I will know things that transpired many years ago. I can know what happened to this pastor. I can know why was the pastor dismissed. If there was a child involved, I'm most probably in a position right now to even know who the child is, who is the mother of the child. So if you are not matured with such information, it will make you look at people different. It will make you hate people. It can even affect you spiritually, because sometimes you will see things about people you looked up to. So first thing, a church clerk should be a very matured person. You need to understand that the minute you come into this space of being a church clerk of the church, you need to grow up. You need to exhibit, you need to show maturity and treat members equally, regardless of what you know or what you heard about them. The second one is a secretary should uphold confidentiality. You cannot be a church clerk if you have no confidentiality. You see, a church that has a church clerk that does not uphold confidentiality becomes divided, because such a church clerk is a clerk that will sit in a church board meeting, we discuss things, and then they go and tell people what we've discussed. Then the church is actually church clerks without confidentiality usually have very chaotic church boards. Before the church board sits, you as the church clerk, you are going to actually expose things that you are going to expose things that you discussed with your elders and pastors before the meeting. Sometimes when you plan for a meeting, there's an approach that you plan that, for the unity of the church, we are dealing with this. So we need to approach this matter like this. So if you have no confidentiality, you'll go and tell your friends, they are bringing this item and this is how they are planning to approach it. And by the time we get to the church board becomes chaotic. Why? Because the church clerk has no confidentiality. So as a church clerk, you need to uphold confidentiality. You need to make sure that whatever you hear or you take it to your grave. You don't share it, not even with your husband when you get home. I know you discuss everything, but that one is not your matter. It's a matter of the church. If you feel that is burdensome, talk to God. Don't tell anyone. You need to be a very confidential person. You know, sometimes I say when I go to churches, I usually have a problem when we have elections in churches. You find that people know very sensitive things about the church. Let me make a practical example. I ran elections in one church, and as we were doing the report, a member in the audience raises their hand and they say, "Why did you choose this person? Because they are not faithful in tithes. They don't remit." The first question I ask myself is, how does a member who is not a treasurer, an elder, or a pastor know who is remitting? They are not even in stewardship. How did you know who's remitting and who's not remitting? It can only mean the one between the treasurer, the pastor, or the elder went and said something to someone. Otherwise, ordinary members, as we are sitting there, we shouldn't be knowing, as I'm sitting next to you, that this one remits. Remember, the manual is clear that remittance, it's a very confidential thing. It's a secret between the pastor, the elder, and the treasurer of the church. You can't tell people who's, but in most cases, you find the church divided. They chose people. How did you know that these people are not remitting? Then it means someone is telling some. There is no confidentiality in our churches. So I'm encouraging you in the treasury, in the secretariat department, we need to uphold confidentiality. Make sure that the things you hear or that are discussed in meetings stay in your heart. Your heart should be the graves of all the debts that you pick up in this church. You take them, you bury them there, they stay there. You don't go and share them with anyone. All right, a secretary must pay attention to detail. What do we mean by this? Things should not just happen as a church clerk and you don't know why they're happening. I come as a pastor, I say to you, we are going to do this thing this way. And you just go and do it. Why are you doing this way? Because I said so. So you are just going to do something just because I said it. You need to be curious. You need to ask yourself, why is something done this way? Why? And don't be afraid to ask as a church clerk. I always say I appreciate very much a troublesome church clerk who always asks me questions. A church clerk who will always go to the manual and challenge me as a pastor to say, but pastor, are we going according to the manual? What does the manual say here? Don't be afraid to ask questions as a church clerk. You need to pay every little thing. Make sure that you pay attention to details. You don't just do things because they are done. I always make an example that when you read a letter as a clerk, one word can change the whole meaning of that letter. You can, that is why I say to church clerks, when you read a letter, don't just read a letter and share. You must read the letter and reread it before you share it. Because if you just read the letter and you think now that you've read the letter, you will find that you are missing. I've been to several business meetings where I said, and they said, we received the letter that said, and when I sit down with them and go through the same letter, I say, but the letter is not saying what you are saying. It is saying something totally different. So even when you read the letter as a clerk, make sure that you scrutinize or analyze each word and you understand what is being said here. Why is it being said like that? Scrutinize everything and you need to pay attention to details as a church clerk. The next one, a church clerk, or rather a secretary, performs follow-ups. So as a church clerk, when we have taken decisions, remember, follow-ups belongs to you. Follow up on decision, follow up on the necessary department. Make sure that things are happening as we have agreed as a church. A secretary should be curious about church processes. It is also important as a secretary to be very curious about. I always make an example that as a young minister, I almost took a person on profession of faith out of being naive. And I was saved by a church clerk who just asked a simple question: who is this that you are taking on profession of faith? Where are they coming from? I had already agreed with my elders that we are taking this person on profession of faith. But because of the question of that clerk, we then had to then ask ourselves, with my elders, we went back to find out who this person is, and we discovered things about the person we almost took on profession of faith. And we realized, and I realized also that I almost misled the Church of God. I almost blundered as a young minister. Why was I saved? I was saved by a question, a church clerk who was curious about church processes. Why do you do this? Why are you taking? So as a church clerk, ask questions. Ask. Don't be afraid to ask, and read your manual. If you don't understand something, go to the manual and check. Ask your pastor. Make sure that you have the answers before you get yourself into anything. A secretary must safeguard the spirituality of meetings. Pastor Anguera spoke about this. A meeting belongs to you. Basically, any meeting, church board business meeting, that meeting belongs to you as a church clerk. The preparation of that meeting is yours, does not belong to the elders. You must make sure that chairs are properly put, that your chairperson has water, there's water for your officers. If you use a PA system in your church to run your meetings, you make sure that even though your deacons might assist, but it's your function. Everything should be, you prepare the meeting as a clerk. It is your responsibility. Now, when I say safeguard the spirituality of the meeting, make sure that in your agenda there is prayer. You open with prayer and you close with prayer. If there are controversial items and you see that our meetings might lose direction because tempers are high, people are angry, there's nothing that stops you as a church clerk from putting in your agenda, or when you get to the meeting, telling your chairperson that, Mr. Chairperson, after the devotion, I'm going to ask that we have a season of prayer as this church board before we begin engaging. Or as the business meeting, you kneel down and you pray. And after prayer, then once you set the tone of the meeting, once you set a spiritual tone, even the angers, become better. I usually say, I notice when we are at sessions that when people are fuming and they're angry, when we start fighting, someone will just go to the mic and say, Mr. Chairperson, I think it's time to pray. And we pause and pray. After that prayer, the atmosphere changes. Everything changes in that meeting because there's something that you cannot be swearing at me. Then I say, let's pause and pray, and we pray. And when we say amen, you stand up and continue where you left off. Praying does something to people. We are Adventists after all. We have a conscience. So as a secretary, you must deliberately safeguard the spirituality of the meeting. And don't be afraid to remind the house also as a clerk when you realize that what we are saying or the way things are being done now are not Christian. Don't be afraid to remind the house that members of the board or business meeting, remember we opened with prayer. We invited God here. Let us please maintain the decorum of this meeting. It is your responsibility of the clerk. A secretary responsible for writing official letters, we need to elect secretaries who have the ability to write official letters. If you do not have this skill, there's AI now, artificial intelligence. Download the app, there's Grammarly, there's what. Those apps will assist you to write anything now. You just write a letter, Grammarly will help you how to do that. There's no secretary who can say, I can't write competent letters anymore because there's technology. I'm giving you now, there's Grammarly. Go to your internet, to your Google, and just type Grammarly. It will assist you, it will even assist with your grammar. Then it will help you to write very professional letters. A secretary should be proficient with computers, not should preferably be proficient, so that in churches where we don't have such a skill, we cannot say then you can't have a church clerk because we don't have a person who knows computers. My challenge is to those churches that may not have the skill of people who know how to use computers. Please invest in equipping someone who will know how to use a computer, because we are migrating to ACMS. Everything requires computers right now. Teach someone. And the manual allows us. It says when it speaks about officers, it speaks of all officers. And at the end, it says, and any other officers that the church may deem necessary. There's nothing that stops us from electing an ACMS coordinator at local church. In liaison with your pastor, you can recommend, if your church clerk is not good with computers, then appoint someone who knows a computer and appoint them as the ACMS coordinator of that particular local church. Then that person will report to you. They'll be under the Secretariat team. Then you know that you feed them with information, they put the information on the computer. But preferably, as a church clerk, try to equip yourself and know and understand computers. The manual says as church clerk, procure necessary equipment for the department. So in fact, this one, you do not only procure necessary equipment for the church clerk department only. The manual says you as a church clerk must see to it that all departments have the necessary equipment they need. We encourage that This one has been encouraged even from the time of Pastor Magua. And I also want to just put emphasis and remind you of this one. We still encourage that church clerks should champion that their churches should have telephones and internet services for their local churches. What we are saying by this is we want to get to a point where in our directory as TOC, we do not have your number, your telephone number as a church clerk. We have the number of the church. If you are from Dube, I need to know that this number is from Dube SDA. It is not your number. So that even when we add you into the group, the Secretariat group as we have currently in the TOC, I know that even when the church changes you from being a clerk, the number remains because it's not your number. It belongs to the church clerk. Right now, we have an admin of when you leave office, you exit the group without even telling us who the new clerk is, only to find that the new clerk does not even know that there is a group that exists in the TOC. Then only later when we do a training of this nature do they discover, oh, there's a group that exists. Then, so we want to get to a point where each church has its own telephone number. Even when I want to call your church, I want to call Sebokeng Zone 7. I shouldn't be calling Auspopi. I should be calling Sebokeng Zone 7 number and know that I'm not calling an individual number. I'm calling a church's number. This number belongs to the church. Auspopi is responding as a staff of Sebokeng, but I'm not necessarily calling you. We also advise that churches should have internet services for the church. In other words, what we are saying in this era of ACMS, it is unfair that church clerks should be using their money and data for church work. The church should use its own equipment, stemming or emanating from laptops, airtime, data. Let the church buy you data as a clerk to do the work of the church. For instance, even in this meeting, I hope no clerk logged into this meeting using their money, because the right thing should have been the church should have made providence for you, ensured that they give you enough data for you to be able to attend this particular meeting. Let's begin to educate our churches that we need, if they can't put it in the church, at least you as a clerk and the treasurer, because you use ACMS, should be given or bought data to do only the work of the church. And I hope you will not use that data to also make your own private calls or chat on WhatsApp. And it will even be better if we have a phone belonging to the church, because we will simply load that phone. You know, we load data onto that phone. Then we know that we give that phone to you to use for the purpose of the church. Ensure provision of stationery for all departments. We've already touched on this one. Every department should have a stationery, and this this is a responsibility of the local church to ensure that all departments have stationery. And once again, let me put this emphasis. We don't encourage people to use their things for the church. Even if you are still writing minutes on a book, please don't use your book to write minutes. If you want to use your book, then donate that book to the church and make it public that I'm donating this book to the church. Let's pray and dedicate that book. Because what happens is, if you use your thing, when we remove you unfairly, you take your book and go with it. When we go and say we want our book, you tell us this is not your, I bought this book with my money, I don't owe you nothing, and you go away with our minutes. And there's nothing we can do to you, because indeed it was your book, it was your laptop. Whereas if you are using equipment belonging to the church, when you leave that office, we are able to come as a church and say, you went away with our laptop or you have our book, please bring our equipment. Then you bring, because sometimes we hate each other in these things, in these nominations and stuff. We hate each other very badly. Sometimes the church will elect the person who was making your life difficult as a clerk, criticizing you, saying things, asking you difficult questions deliberately. They will make your life so difficult come October. That person sits in the nominating committee. This very church elects that person who made your life miserable. They say that person must be your church, must be the person who will succeed you. Then you as a church clerk must now be humble enough to go and give this person who harassed you for 12 months, do a proper handover, give them all. And this is where maturity comes in as a church clerk, where you need to rise above these petty things. Regardless of what this person did to you, you must not revenge, be angry or hate them. Take the equipment, give it to them, give them a proper handover, Teach them if they do, because sometimes the people who criticize you cannot even do half the job you are doing. Sometimes people who speak too much, when they are put in that position, they can't do what you are doing. So in most cases, you find that you leave positions bitter as a church clerk. And when that person comes now wanting, then you are, because you are angry of what they did to you, then you say, no, I'm not going to give that person my book. This book, I bought it with my money. So if it's not your book, even if you are angry and hurt, you can't run away with our book. You'll have to return the book because it belongs to the church, or that laptop belongs to the church. Promote a culture of reading manuals. Don't only read a manual for yourself, promote a culture even within the church of reading church manuals. Make sure that as a clerk, you produce a reading church. Not only the church manual, youth manuals, have competent leaders who can read manuals. When we spoke about policy education earlier on, there's nothing that stops you from liaising with your youth director or rather with your youth leader at local church. Bring people in the youth department who understand the policies of the youth department. Bring them to come and equip your leaders and your young people about the policies of that particular department, so that you have a competent church and leadership wherever you are. Developing a reporting template. If you are going to encourage a culture of reporting, you need a reporting template. So make sure that there is a reporting template. We already spoke about that. We need maintain a comprehensive inventory of records. This is your responsibility. Come up with an inventory. I've been to a number of churches where you come, they tell you, we used to have a PA system. Where is the PA system now? Nobody knows. The last time we saw it, it was there. Someone says it was there, it was there. So make sure you have an inventory. And one can ask me, is it the job of the church clerk or the deacons? Church clerks make sure there's inventory. Deacons take care of the property in the church. So you need to have an inventory that you are going to share with the deacons. The job of the deacons is to make sure that every property of the church is well taken care of. But knowing what we have as a church belongs to the church clerk. And when you leave the department, hand over that inventory to the incoming church clerk. Oversee the management of social media information. I'm saying here, groups of the church. Now I'm talking about church board and business meeting. You are the admin of those groups. Do away with the culture of anyone posting whatever they want to post whenever. Teach your church that if they want to post, and because I understand or I've realized that almost every church has a WhatsApp group after COVID-19. Don't let anyone post or say what they want to say in your group. Take charge of that group as a church clerk. Let people send announcements through you. You are the admin of that. You can't be a clerk. You are a clerk of the church. You are in a group. You see announcements that you don't even know about also as a clerk. Bring order. That management that Pastor Ngura was speaking about earlier on. Bring management to your church. Teach them order. That even when there is death, there's, sometimes what people do is, I wake up dead. Then a person, just because they were the first to know, or they are my wife's friends, then my wife told them that I'm dead. Then a person posts in the group, we just heard this morning that Pastor Masego passed away, in the whole group. At that moment, my children don't even know that I'm dead. Then my children see from a church group that they've lost their father. They've not been properly taught. That thing can cause a lot of harm. So we need to coordinate that. And Mina, I usually even advise that if you can, as a church clerk, make sure that only you and your officers can post messages. Don't open your groups for members to write as they wish. This is what also creates conflicts in the church, because some provoke each other in these groups. Create order. Even when there's death, let the clerk be the one who's going to send that announcement after making sure that the family knows, children have been told, all important people are now aware. Then you don't just take a sensitive information like that and just make it public just because you had it. Or so now you are posting on Facebook, so and so is dead. You don't even know whether my wife was told. One day you will post something like that only to find that my wife will see from your post for the first time that she has lost her husband, just because you were privileged to be sitting next to the person who was called about my death. So we need to coordinate such things, even at facilitate the creation of new groups. When you come in as a clerk now, as you were elected this year, if there are groups that are needed, facilitate the creation of them. If there were no groups for your church, create them. Create a group for yourself, your elder, your clerk, your officers that are prepare agenda. Execute removal of all members. Remove the old pastor. If I was pastoring Rivonia and I'm not there, don't be shy to remove me. If you think it will hurt my feelings, call me and tell me, Pastor, now that you are gone, I'm going to remove you from the group. I'm adding Pastor Chefu. He's the new pastor. Then remove me and add. It's your responsibility. I was saying last week, I realized recently that I am still in the Acacia group, a church I pastored, 2 to 3 years ago. I'm still in that group to this day. Nobody removed me. So there is a pastor, there's me also here. So such things, it's your duty. Look at all members, old elders who are not elders anymore. Let them not be in a group that requires elders when they are not elders. Remove them as the clerk. Of course, I'm not saying do it aggressively or with arrogance, with all humility and proper consultation, but make sure that you only have members of that party. If it's church board 2025, let only church board members of 2025 be in that group. No member who's no longer a church board member should be in that group, and it's your responsibility to do that. We already spoke about this recording of minutes and distribution of correspondences. Thank you very much. I'm 5 minutes late, but we will recover. I am ready to entertain questions if there are any. Okay, I see some things on the group already. Someone is saying reporting templates. Reporting template, Karabo sends you that link. Our reporting that comes to us, all we need from you is the stats. So if you go to the Church Clerks group, which I hope you are in, you look at that link, that's our reporting template. Just feed that template with information. That's all we need from you. Tembi is asking from Zimhlope, please send the committee, subcommittees, and duties directly from the office to us clerks. Okay, she's asking that the subcommittees of the various departments, if we can share them with the churches, that is in order, Tembi. It can be arranged. Loveness says we are using our data for everything. She says, I'm going to claim, go and claim, Loveness. Go and claim your data. The church owes you for even this meeting. You shouldn't be using your, but of course, I know there are churches that are not doing well financially. I'm also not one, I also don't want to, influence you and go and fight with your churches out there. There are also churches that can't afford. And if you are able to assist the church or you have the means to help them, I'm not saying don't help them. All I'm saying is that start educating your church that you can't be using your things to do the church's work. The church must provide for you in order for you to be efficient in your work. Let me see. My concern is with church member to call, and most churches we are renting where we worship. How can this be possible? My concern is with church number to call, and most churches, church number to call. You can even buy a cell phone. I'm gonna recognize you, Amanda. You can even buy a cell phone from PEP for 100 Rand, and that will be your phone, your church number. You don't have to have a bill, even if you are worshiping in a school. For as long as I know that this number, I mean, actually, an Android phone now, I think you can find one for 800, and I don't think there's a church that can afford that, so that you even run all the WhatsApp groups and that using that particular phone. And so you don't have to be in a building. That can also be achieved in a school. My church can't afford data. I use my Wi-Fi. Mr. Ronald Ronnie, thank you very much for assisting your church that cannot afford. The Lord will add a blessing. Do we still need to have a church stamp in this digital age? Do all letters need to have the church stamp? With the letterhead, not really, but there are instances where a stamp is needed in other documents, and there are other churches even now in this modern age that will still say we need a church stamp in our letter. For the sake of those, you can still have them, but I hear you very well. If you look at all the letters I send from the office, I don't put a stamp in any of them. I just send them because we have an official letterhead of the conference, so there's no need for a stamp. Please advise what exactly must the departments report to us? The youth that must report their activities. What did you do for this term? What was the purpose? What did you achieve as a department? SSPM they must report not to you as a clerk, they must report to the church board. But you as the church clerk must make sure that your departments report. In other words, the policies of the church or the culture of the church is that every quarter they should ideally be reporting. There is no department that should work for 12 months without submitting any form of a report to the church. It does not work. We need to properly, including you as a clerk, you need to go and report to the church board, report the stats. How many people did you lose? How many did you add? What happened in 5Ms that Pastor Ngira spoke about? So we all need to report. So all departments should report to the church. Are the elders allowed to send announcements to church groups? The church clerk should ideally send all church. I know this is a debate. There are churches where they say elders are the ones who make announcements, and there are churches, standard practice, where generally the church clerk is the one that makes announcements. My personal advice is, in trying to bring order to your church, I advise you to have a system in your church that announcements will be sent only by the church clerk. And even on Sabbath, those who were previously when we did training, you'll remember that I said, I even advise you that even on Sabbath, begin to teach your church that if you want to make announcements, every announcement should be in my desk as the church clerk by Friday latest. Any announcement that is not in my desk on Friday will not be announced on Sabbath. And do away with this thing. And that's the management we're speaking about when Pastor Ngira spoke about it. Do away with this thing that it will be divine service. The preacher finishes preaching. When the preacher is done, someone from nowhere just stand. We want to see you. Or Mama Dokas is standing. We request Bonga Mama Dokas basale sine meeting. Or you hear announcements that you are not even aware of as a church clerk. So for you to bring order in your church, you must begin to educate your church that I will receive announcements, and when it's time for announcements, I will stand and make announcements. Once I'm done making announcements, no other announcement will ever be done. It won't be easy at first, especially if your church is used to this culture of uzothi umdala sekasepulpit, bese someone sneaks afike emva kwakhe mdala, I forgot an announcement la, please ngicela ukubona youth department yonke, things. Try to do away with that. Introduce management to your local church. It will assist you to be, and it will also bring order to your church. It will be difficult at first, but with time you will gain momentum, and they will get used to the new culture that you would have introduced. Amanda, you are free to speak. Let me recognize you.
Good afternoon, pastors and leaders. My question is on business meetings, because I come from a church where there's a culture that with every church board meeting that we have, let's say we have it this Sunday, next Sabbath we're supposed to be having a church business meeting, and everything that we would have discussed in the church board goes to the church business meeting to be discussed, even if there's nothing that needs to be voted for by the church. Everything, like we're duplicating. Well, that's my feeling, but it's a culture that is there in my church. So is that the appropriate thing to do? Are there certain things that need to be addressed in the church, or it's everything that should go that is coming from the church board? I also have a concern because I heard you talking about preparing an agenda for meetings. I only get sent the agendas by the head elder who's responsible for the clerical. So you only find out that sometimes I don't even know what the agendas are. They come to me, maybe the meeting is going to start at 12. I'm given the agenda when the meeting is starting, and I have to quickly write because we're still using the manual way of writing things. So I wanted to ask as well, who really puts together the agenda of the church board? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Let me start with the second one. It's very dangerous as a clerk to go to a meeting whose agenda you don't even understand, you don't know. It was just imposed or sent to you. And you remember, as a clerk, you are driving that agenda. The chair is chairing that meeting. So you can't go to a meeting, you are the church clerk, you don't even know what is going to be discussed. Ideally, before you even go there to the meeting, you must first, with your pastor or elder, go through the agenda together so that you fully understand the agenda that you are going to be presenting as the church clerk. So I'm basically saying I'm discouraging the culture that you are going to receive, and even receiving, it's not even right for even members of the church board to receive the agenda a few hours before the meeting. It is not appropriate. An agenda should be sent way in advance, and you as the clerk should also, if maybe let me also be flexible and say maybe it's an urgent church board meeting, it's a special church board meeting, there's something that urgently needs the attention of the board. Still, try to send the agenda in advance, give them as much time as possible for calling of that meeting, and then discuss the agenda with your chairperson, because the meeting belongs to the clerk more than the chairperson. So please don't go to a church board when you don't. After this, go speak to your pastor and your elder and tell them that after this training, I advise that you should not work like that. You can't sit in a meeting whose agenda you don't even understand. The issue of the business meeting, the church board normally recommends to the business meeting. The normal thing is for when items go to the church business meeting, they go as recommendations to the business meeting to be voted for. You can't just duplicate everything that we discuss, even things that, Pella, if you are saying, I mean, if we had a chart as a board and there was no action, let's say we sat and spoke that, there's an idea that maybe we must paint our church white. It has been yellow for too long. And then you decided at the end that maybe this is not the time to discuss it. Let's leave it. We need to do some spade work as the church board before we agree on this. You can't then go to the business meeting and say, we had a discussion and we were thinking, but then we decided to abandon it because we are still too. Why are you bringing a raw item like that to the business meeting? You only bring the item to the business meeting when you say, we have done our spade work, and as the church board, we are bringing a recommendation to the church business meeting that the church has been yellow for too long and white is the in color. We then recommend to the business meeting that we paint the church white, and only you don't really have to duplicate anything. Send only recommendations to the business meeting. Not every discussion should go to the church business meeting. All right. There's Pilisiwe Mashiane. I see your head. You can speak.
Yes, Sanbonan Bafundis. I just have a question. I heard you talking about, as church clerks, we are responsible to compile a list of committee members or list of committees, including members in the terms of reference. Are you saying that as clerks we are, or we're supposed to be members of each committee in the church?
All right, thank you for that question. Very important question. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm basically saying is that, let me make an example. In the TOC, we have a number of subcommittees belonging to the executive committee. I don't sit in many of them, but I have all of them in my office. I have the committee, I have the committee members, and I have the terms of reference for those committee members. If you were to ask me now about any committee in the TOC, I just go to my database and I will tell you, okay, so in the finance committee, these are the members, this is the quorum, and these are how many members. It's something that should sit in your desk. You should know all of them. And if your church does not have subcommittees, I was saying, you as a church clerk, go and encourage them. Be the champion this. Make sure that the subcommittees of the different subcommittees that are supposed to be there are functional and they work. In other words, if, for instance, the deacons board never sits in your church, as the church clerk, go to your head deacon and say, my deacon, I see that we have a deacons board in this church. Firstly, maybe find out, do you even know that there's something called a deacons board? If not, then tell them, go to the manual, check the section of deacons, you will see the composition of a deacons board and the work of the deacons. And that is why we have trainings. I'm sure right now the president who is training elders and deacons is also training deacons about the deacons board and the work of deacons. So make sure that those committees are functional and that they work. Not necessarily that it's you must chair all these meetings. No, they must just sit in your desk and you must just make sure that you follow up on all of that. Maybe let me give Pastor Ngwira a privilege. He wants to assist maybe with the responses. Pastor Ngwira, let me prioritize you before we come to the other questions.
Yeah, my chair, I am just excited and happy of the information that is being shared as I'm sitting in the background. I think my interest in just adding in what you're mentioning in terms of the agenda, you realize that this subcommittee that we are talking about, whether it's the Elders Council, Sabbath School Council, so Personal Ministries Council, Pathfinder Committee, as I think you earlier mentioned, to say church clerk as a custodian of governance. Some committee are crystal clear in the church manual, others are not. So it means that the departmental leader must bring those recommendations, composition of the committee, and I think you also mentioned the terms of reference that when the church board is going to vote, because those subcommittee must be voted by the church board, and as they vote the church board at the church board level, the terms of reference are also very clear. So what does that mean? It simply means that if the subcommittee of the church board are meeting, in other words, if there's a church board, then you will realize that the recommendation of the subcommittee from the Elders Council, from the treasurer, from the stewardship committee becomes part of the agenda items that need to come to the board. So in the absence of those subcommittee, you realize that normally there's really nothing that comes as an agenda item from different departments. I think you have also mentioned earlier on is that as a church clerk and officers of the local church, we must encourage members to know that when we sit at the church board is not for the pastor, the church board is not for the elder, the church board is not for the church clerk, the church board is for church board members, which means that the departmental leaders must make sure that the items come through their subcommittee. So that is also another way how the agenda items are formulated. From the subcommittee, it then comes to the board as a recommendation from different subcommittees to the church board. Hence, you've also mentioned my pastor that even the church board, there are items that the church board cannot make a decision. One of them, it will be that one of the of what we call of membership transfer from Adventist Church membership system, and also presentation by the pastor himself to say you cannot just as a church board say we are now accepting a member or transferring a member. Now, what does that mean? Remember that most of the time, and this is very important, most of the time when we do membership transfer in and out, we do it during divine service. Most of us, we are not aware that right there, we are doing a business meeting. So it is important for the secretary and the chairperson, who is the pastor or the elder, to make sure that people are aware that as you're doing that announcement, is actually a business meeting. So that minute must be recorded. How many members voted for yes, you must count. And if there was a member opposing, you must also count. And the action that we are talking about from the Adventist Church membership system in and out that you voted, then it will be rectified on the regular church business meeting as part of agenda item or of previous minutes. Thank you, my pastor.
Thank you, my senior. All right, let's just, Auspopi, I'm coming to you now. Let me just take these ones on the chat quickly so that we trace. So, okay. Thanks, Pastor. My question is on the board meeting. If there is a disagreement, as clerk I asked to pray. Then as clerk I asked to pray. After the prayer, should we continue on the same agenda or should we move to another? Don't just ditch an agenda, because once it's introduced to the house, it belongs to the house. Count on your chairperson to close that agenda appropriately. But if you pray and finish and you say, this agenda based we are moving from it, it might not end well. Go back to the same agenda, but with a totally different, because now we have prayed. as the church. Since our church is still not migrated to ACMS using letters ahead for membership requests, can we still use, it's fine, you can still use it. I'm not opposed to that. Actually, it only validates the authenticity of the letter. It's still fine, you can use it. Can I please have the template? Okay, Karabo will send this to you. Thanks, Sister Amanda. I had the same question. Okay, I also wanted to ask the Nurture and Retention Committee, is it my duty to put that together? And if so, who are the members? Okay, I'm going to share something now. Please explain to us how we as church clerks form our committee, okay? My pastor, may you kindly touch on the role of the district secretary as well, all right? My pastor, please clarify on this issue. Should church clerks be in elders' council too? Okay. Auspopi, please, I saw your hand up. You can start.
Okay, good morning, Muruti and everyone. Yeah, Poppy Sira from Orangeville District. Muruti, I just want to check, unless if I'm on the wrong platform, but from the district secretaries, can you also touch on the roles and responsibilities? Because I'll talk from my, what I'm currently doing as the district secretary. I have created the WhatsApp group for all the local church clerks. This is mainly to communicate the district announcements and things only that are pertaining to the districts, and also to remind the church clerks about the announcements that are made or that are coming from the TOC. So that's the role of that WhatsApp group. But what is important for me is, can you just clarify the roles and responsibilities just to make sure that we do not, there's no duplication? Because I noted in one of your slides, you said that the church clerk has a direct line of reporting directly to you, and that is correct. So from my desk, what I normally do is just to remind them to send the quarterly statistical report, or to send the church rollout, or the children count, something like that. It's just to remind them to submit to your desk. So if we can just touch on that one, if I am aligned, or perhaps one of the secretary from other districts are here as well in attendance, maybe if we can just help us to make sure that there is that synergy, instead of us duplicating and causing confusion within the district. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Auspopi, for that. Firstly, I appreciate the work that you are doing in the district. You are basically assisting me and with my church clerks at local church level to be efficient in what we do. And I truly appreciate that. So your job as a district secretary basically is to, you are the secretary of the district advisory council. And now, what is the duty of the district advisory council in the context of the TOC? And of course of the operational committee, which we previously used to call the executive committee of the DMB, which has now changed to DAC. So if at the TOC constitution, it will say, for the purpose of organized ministry, districts shall be organized into departmental council. Each departmental council shall be. Then the district you see, I also don't want to say this and disempower you, because I'm benefiting from what you are doing. But let me put it like this: local churches work with the local conference, not necessarily the district. In other words, when your work is to coordinate programs at the district level, in line with the strategy of the district, and the role of the district is to basically coordinate programs also at district level. So your work is limited to that. But Auspopi, what you are doing, encouraging church clerks to send stats to me, that's actually very excellent. I appreciate it. It's good. You are even going beyond what you, it's not something you should stop. It's something actually all church clerks should assist me in doing. Even though you are now you are stretching, you are going even beyond. But it's very good that you do that. And also where there are gaps in your church clerks, you can also facilitate training to make sure that you also have properly trained church clerks at local, at district level. I would also appreciate if you assist with that. In terms of announcements, we usually send announcements from the office to the churches because according to the manual, we work with churches, so we must send directly. Every church clerk receives a message every Sabbath. However, I know from being a pastor in the TOC, I know that in some other contexts, you find that we send information, it does not arrive, where it's supposed to arrive. I'm also not going to say, don't assist us in terms of sharing same too. It's still fine. Share when you receive announcements, share them with your group because that's a method that's very effective and working. And currently your district is one of the a very lively district. You guys are very alive, very visible. And if what you are doing is also contributing to the liveliness that I'm observing currently in your district, then I would say continue right there, continue assisting me. But what I can tell you is that you are actually doing more than what you are asked for, which is a very good thing. I'm happy. You are the kind of a team leader that when I give you a task, you don't only give me what I ask you to do, you even go beyond to make my life easy. So I'm benefiting right now because of your hard work. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Don't stop and continue doing that. But basically what you are doing is what you should be doing as a district secretary. Thank you very much for that, Auspopi. So there's another question from Deep Slot West that says, okay, there was a question on nurture and retention. I was planning to speak, someone asking about the composition. Let me just share this quickly. I was planning to speak about that last, but I see time is running out. Let me just say this. I sent a letter to the churches. I'm sure you see it in your screen. It says, we request that each church in the TOC elects members of this committee, which will develop a strategy for retaining and reclaiming members within our local congregation, a virtual. And I said a virtual training will be scheduled early this year. I'm going to schedule this with Pastor Ngwira. And then at the end, I said, we request each church to elect these members. And then when you have elected them, then we requested you to send the names of the elected members to this email. So far, we only received this from Middleland Zone 7 only. That's the only church that submitted this. Thank you very much, Middleland Zone 7. And this is the committee. This is the composition of the committee. This was sent last year already. And I was hoping that the outgoing clerk would have given you this. So the pastor or his designee is the church clerk is the secretary, first elder, treasurer. This is basically the people. These are the people who sit in that particular committee. And now that you've asked me about that, maybe let me quickly touch on that already. Pastor Ngwira, do you want to quickly touch on nurture and retention? Just to explain.
My pastor?
Can you just quickly touch on nurture and retention, just to explain what is this committee about to my members?
Yes. Can you hear me, my pastor?
Yes.
All right. Remember that we are losing okay. The first thing is that the name for the committee has been evolving and changing now and then. Now the name that we are having is Discipleship Making and Reclamation, but it's the same, my pastor, Nurture, Retention and Reclamation Committee. Am I audible?
Yes, very audible.
Yeah. Number one, I think the whole idea of discipleship making and reclamation, the process that there are two things. Number one, the church is investing much in evangelism, making sure that we are bringing people, but yet we don't have a mechanism. How do we keep people? That's the nature aspect. How do we keep people in the church feel that the church is a place for them to be? And then the third aspect will be, if the church now, those that we have evangelized, we have to disciple them. Hence, I mentioned earlier on to say we can look at chapter 6, what is discipleship. We can look at the church manual, says the first responsibility of a church board is to come up with an active discipleship plan. That plan simply means that every member need to be a disciple. It's a way to keep our member in the church, to nurture them, to take care of them, and also for them to feel part of the church. Then that's a nurturing aspect. Then the third aspect is that when our members are no longer in the church, they have left the church, we should be. So this committee is just through the, I think there's one there is Adventist, you mentioned it, Adventist Church Management System Coordinator is part of also the committee, if it's not a church clerk. So the committee will be looking at the church clerk or Adventist Church Management System Coordinator with the church clerk, who will be bringing figures, numbers, names, people, to say in our books we have got 100 people. In this 100 people, we have checked the 50 of them are here. We have checked their names. Another 50 is not here because others have been transferred. Others we don't know. That's why we need to know those 5 types of members as they are categorized in the Advent Church Management System. So it means that this committee, their responsibility is to make sure that how do we nurture our people to make sure that they're disciples, those are in the church. Those that have left, what plan do we have to make sure that we rescue? It's a rescue plan. How do we win them back? So we are balancing the two to keep those so that people don't leave, and those that have left, what plan are we coming up with as a committee? So the church board will then say the committee will have power to recommend or power to act. So that is the overall responsibility of the committee. Issues of the membership audit also help through this committee. Thank you, Chair. My pastor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, my pastor. I just wanted Pastor Ngwira to just quickly touch on. There was a question again that says, should the flag be in the elders? Should the flag be in the elders board too? Board of Elders, page 75, church manual, it says, where a church has a number of elders, it should organize a board of elders chaired by the pastor or his or her designee, and with the first elder or another elder serving as secretary. Such a body provides a way to distribute responsibility and coordinate their contributions for the well-being of the congregation. It also provides a training ground where elders are instructed in their duties. The board of elders is accountable to the church board. It's page 75 in the new church manual. And if you want anything on church clerks, go to page 84 of the church manual. It will also give you information regarding the church clerk regarding that. Let me see. So don't know if this is relevant, but I would like to point out that in Deep Slot West, we currently have only one church under the TOC. The rest are Albertine. So this is where the letterheads are very important, especially concerning for service requests of members and music groups and membership transfers. Okay, that is very well noted. So we are basically saying, be careful of not creating confusion with letters that might be coming from the other side of Albertine, also written TOC. I think though there are letters now, they state that Albertine, though I'm not sure, but thank you for that. And then Mrs. Popisira is essential to our district, very helpful, appreciated. Or from Orange Farm, Sitembile Moses. Thank you. I also appreciate her very much. She is very essential. All right, Saints, thank you very much. I think Pastor Ngwira also touched on the issue of the Nurture and Retention Committee. The other question was, what is it our responsibility of church clerks to come up with this committee? Please run with it, my church clerk. I'm begging you. After this meeting today, there was a letter I sent. I'm going to ask Karabo to send that same letter to our groups again, just to remind you and by the way, I hope you are all in the church clerks groups. If you are not, please make sure you are in the church groups. My cell number, I'm going to write it here just now. Let me see. I'm going to write my number as well here in case you need my. Pumula, can you just send my number to all? 072 73339. Just send it to all in case you have any challenges. Please also make contact with me. Send a WhatsApp, call me, I'll call you back, or I will WhatsApp you back, whichever. But let's communicate. I want to make sure that you are all in our groups, and then I will then send you the letter again. Please go and make sure that each church has this nurture and retention committee, because as soon as we are done with these promotions, I am going to arrange a training with the SAU, Pastor Ngwira, and his boss, Pastor Lupondwana, and maybe we will even invite the SID. We are then going to bring them to come and thoroughly train us, on this committee. What is it about? What it intends to achieve? And why we need to have it in all our local churches. So the answer is yes. It is the responsibility of the church clerk to make sure that we have this particular committee. And I'm begging you, my leaders, work with me and help me to come up with this. My number is right there. Pastor Masego, 072 267 73339. Tembi Dube, may we please have the minutes of this powerful training? No problem. The minutes or the presentation, I think I will send you I don't know if you meant the presentations or what, but we will send you the presentations. My number is right there, my leaders. My number is right there, 072. You are free to make contact with me. That's a church number to me. This is a TOC number, it's not mine. When I leave this office, I'm going to leave it here. So you can also make contact with me there, and then we will then make that arrangement to have that training. There is a last question. Pastor, please also help me on this. There is admin board, church board, and business meeting. I just want to understand the operation of admin board and who is able to be at admin board. What is admin board? Pastor Ngura, you know what admin board is? I think he's talking about the officers that prepare the agenda item. Can I give you that to respond to? You know, let me respond to this like this, my elder.
My leader? Oh.
Oh, you can go first, my leader.
What were you saying on the question? Please also help me on this.
Pastor, please also help me on this. There is admin board, church board, and business meeting. I just want to understand.
Okay. Is it the word used as officers, or it's just a management word used? We may not have it in the church board, in the church manual. But hence, I think earlier on, but Pastor Maseko, you can finish it in the context of TOC. What we were trying to establish is a collaboration, work relationship between the pastor, the elder, the church clerk, and the treasurer. And I mentioned earlier on that they serve as officers. They have got an oversight, not that they make decision, oversight of day-to-day operation of the church. So in many things that need to be done, it's important that the pastor, elder, church clerk, and the treasurer, they are on the same page while they are bringing matters to the church board. From the church board will bring the recommendation to the business meeting. Remember, in the absence of the highest decision-making body, that is the business meeting, the church board do the oversight of day-to-day operation of the church. So the officers, in consultation with each other, they have to consult the church board. Thank you upon this.
All right, thank you very much. And the probably the last one, Pastor Ngwira, on that also is that the two official boards, committees in the church is basically the church board and the business meeting. Those are the two official ones. The other one, as you've rightly said,
yes,
are you also when I'm at local church level, and it usually brings conflict. It is not a body that takes decisions here that people will decide that we are going to take money and do this. No, that's a function of the church board and business meeting. This is just a committee that brings order. They prepare the agenda of the board. They make sure that there's synergy. They make sure that the leaders move together. So that's basically the function. And maybe the last one that I should have mentioned that I forgot to mention is that I know that most churches would cry that we don't have business meetings because we never form a quorum. The manual allows you at a usually called business meeting to agree on your quorum as a church and the percentage of the quorum. So make use of that provision from the church manual and come up with quorums that are practical numbers that will be able to sit. Because also from my experience of pastoring, I've pastored churches whereby church boards end up taking final decisions because business meetings just don't sit. Or if you call a business meeting, you find that the same board members are also the exact same people, except for one or two people who will be loyal. So try to use that provision in the manual and come up with a number or rather a quorum for your business meeting so that you are also able to have business meeting. Otherwise, there are decisions that will not be constitutional if they are only passed through a board and did not go through a business meeting. Since it's 1:45, I will release you 15 minutes earlier. Thank you very much for everything. Pastor Ngwira, you are free to
just a quick one. I think I'm not sure whether there's Mashaz says I did not get the answer. Maybe before I say something, can you just make a follow-up on that one?
So let me just go through it. I'm sorry.
Me too, Pastor. I wanted to ask something.
Okay, go first, ma'am. Let me while I look for Mashaz's question.
Okay. Yes, I've got a few questions, but I will just skip. I wanted to ask if it's on Sabbath and then I'm asked to come and attend the meeting as a clerk, especially business meeting. Am I going to be out of line when I tell them that it's Sabbath, I can't attend the meeting because of like the meetings are supposed to be on Sundays mostly. I don't know if I'm wrong, or after the Sabbath. And the other one is, I didn't hear you touching about assistant. What is the assistant supposed to do? Because I don't want to see myself maybe overloading her with work, or maybe we get, in a disagreement that it's like maybe I'm giving her too much of my work, because we both working. I'm working Monday to Friday. I don't have time. The only little time that I have to attend to the church work, it's maybe Fridays, like few hours, and then on a Sunday. And then if maybe we are in a meeting and then people like they get out of the agenda, what should I do? And then if maybe at that laptop, I'm supposed to take it to church, like who's covering that transport? Because I don't have a car and I need to be safe with my laptop and phone. What must I do? Thank you.
All right. Let me start with the last one. No, let me start with this one. I've opened the church manual. It says, large churches may elect assistant clerks as needed. When the clerk as secretary cannot attend a business meeting, the clerk should arrange for an assistant to be present to take the minutes. So an assistant clerk is your assistant. They are helping you. Where you cannot be, you assign them to be there. What you cannot do, you assign them to do. They are supposed to assist you to make your life easy. Especially in large churches. A church clerk, basically, an assistant clerk does what you do. You are the head clerk, they report to you. So you can assign responsibility to that particular clerk that will assist you to make your life easy. But you must also understand you are the main clerk. So whatever you give to them should not be as heavy as your load, because this person is there to assist you. And in terms of how do you balance between work and doing your job as church clerk, here, I wish other church clerks at local church level could actually assist you, give you tips. All I can say is you will then need to try very hard to try and balance your time. Because you are correct. Everything you've said is very, very correct. You work, come home, you must pay attention to your children and family, and then it's work, then so it's a lot of work. It can be done. Find that little time, try to manage your time, create some space. If you must create your proper timetable to say, I will I will give church clerk 3 days a week, and I will give this work 30 minutes or an hour of my time, and I will find that time there. Or I will eat 30 minutes for my lunch. The other 30 minutes, I will just look at my church. But just try to manage your work and try to balance this. And if it's too heavy for you, have an assistant. If you have an assistant, then assign some of these responsibilities to your assistant so that you don't feel overburdened. The aim of working for the church is not for you to be overburdened. It should not be a burden. It should be something that you also enjoy as a worker, because it's voluntarily. You are not even paid for it. So the aim is not for you to feel like, hey, this thing, I can't even move now. So get help, use an assistant, so that they do the things that you cannot do. And then you try to share the responsibilities. But other clerks that are here are also free to actually give you tips on how they manage their time in doing this. Because I think most of you here are all employed, and one way or the other, you try to find time to do this. Did I answer all your questions, Wendy? I hope so.
And not like the most important thing of the Sabbath.
Or the Sabbath,
Yes.
This one it's tricky because we can argue it in different ways. For as long as whatever the meeting you are holding will not conflict, will not or rather will not be against the spirit of the Sabbath, I think it can be done. We usually do departmental promotions on Sabbath. We meet, we pray together, then we then go and do something like this. It should usually be done on Sabbath. I think what matters is whatever we are doing should be in the spirit of the Sabbath. We should be discussing things that are contributing to the kingdom of God, building things. We should not be discussing politics, toxic things, on a Sabbath day. So as long as that meeting is in the spirit of the Sabbath, because if you ask me, can we have a meeting to discuss saving souls on the Sabbath? Yeah, you can. Why not? Because you are discussing saving souls for the kingdom of God. That's in line with the spirit of the Sabbath. So it's something that can be done. So it depends on the nature of the meeting. Pastor Vera, your hand is up.
Sorry, Pastor. Last question. I've got an experience whereby people, they've got emotions, like they showing that they can even hit you. Like in this few times that I went to the meetings, there was a time that I was crying. I was not happy because like people, they react the way they want to. So my problem is, yes, it was on a Sunday. My problem is when it's on Sabbath. And then now I end up not being okay because of whoever reacting however to me. So that is my problem.
Okay. Yeah, well, I would not agree that we should have meetings that are like that, then where tempers will be high and we will be threatening to fight on a Sabbath day. That I will disagree with. And I would actually further encourage the church to shy away from such meetings. If there is a possibility of such things, then if the meeting is about fighting on a Sabbath, clearly we can't be. In fact, we should not be even having meetings like that altogether as the Adventist Church, where we fight and talk to each other like that. It should not happen like that. But just to give you a brief answer, I will also not support that you on a Sabbath be in a meeting of that nature. That is toxic and that will make you cry because you are emotionally wounded. The Sabbath is not for that. It's a day of rest that we should enjoy and rest from all the things that we've been through throughout the week. not hurt each other and do all these things on the Sabbath. All right, Pastor Ngwira, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, no, to just comment, my leader, is that one, I think on Mashazi there's a, please explain to us how church clerks form our committee. It's nowhere written in the church manual, but from an operational side and management, because you as a church clerk, you have been trained how to prepare agenda, how to write minutes, how to manage the motions on actually the board dynamics. So in the subcommittees, but Pastor Maseko will take it up further on this one, but I'm just commenting out of my own understanding, is that it will not be a bad idea that all the subcommittees secretary form a secretariat subcommittee, because there you'll be sharpening each other and helping other people that have never been exposed to secretariat work. That's the simple. I can take that one, my pastor. But then the last one, it will be that as church clerks, custodian of governance, you should remember that in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, two departments are subject to audit, and that is Secretariat and Treasury. So your work, actions that are taken for money and everything else, it is subject to audit. So how you take your minutes, issues of money, as Pastor also mentioned, that any other committee may be operational, putting things in order, but decision making is the church board and then recommending to the business meeting. So you need to remember that we are also subject to audit. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Ngwira. My leaders, it's almost 1 o'clock. Thank you very much. I really appreciate. We have 48 members still present here. You were very patient. You logged on since very early in the morning, spent the whole 4 hours listening to us. May God bless you for that. Let us go back there and set those churches on fire. Remember monthly stats. Remember, send your record book to us. Remember, where possible, migrate to ACMS. Remember, motivate your church to get you a laptop. May God bless you. And I will now release you to continue with other chores for the day. And I'm going to request, let me see, how's Sheila? Can you close for us with the word of prayer? Sheila, can you pray for us if you can hear me? If not, Pastor Ngwenya, can you unmute
I can hear you.
Pray for us, ma'am.
Okay. We can pray. Baba olungileyo, siyabonga leli thuba lokuthola imfundiso ezingaka baba ngokuqhuba umsebenzi wakho. Thixo songani ngasenza sihlale sisebenza ngokuthembekileyo msindisi othandekayo. Singawenzi amaphutha akhele esimesweni okulunga. Singabakhipha abantu endlini yakho Jehova nokulunga. Sengathi lolu lwazi lungasikhulisa ekukholweni kwethu ngegama lakho ehlala lizobe phakathi. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Siyabonga Sis Sheila.
Thank you.
Pastor Ngwira, thank you very much for coming. And team, thank you very much.
Thank you, leadership, for a beautiful work. Well done.
Thank you. Amen. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you. Beautiful week ahead. May the good Lord be with you all.
Thank you, my pastor, for the good.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, host. Thank you, everybody.